Ma Xingkong had thought that Long Chen couldn't move within the pressure of his domain. Unable to act, the only thing Long Chen was capable of doing was smiling to infuriate Ma Xingkong in hopes of getting the latter to kill him quickly. When that broadsword suddenly appeared and attacked him, he completely ignored Long Chen. As for Long Chen's face-slapping arts, they were unrivaled beneath the heavens. Even if someone was on guard, they wouldn't necessarily be able to dodge. As a result, this slap viciously struck across his face. That resounding slapping sound caused space to almost explode. Ma Xingkong's head made a full 360-degree turn. Half of his teeth even shot out and landed on the ground. Just at this moment, the broadsword struck Ma Xingkong's shield. That shield was extremely tough, and under normal circumstances, it would have been able to block this attack. But Long Chen's slap caused Ma Xingkong's aura to become unsteady, and the power of his shield dropped sharply. As a result, it shattered upon being struck, and the broadsword continued to strike Ma Xingkong. Boom! Ma Xingkong was sent flying, wildly vomiting blood. His clothes turned into colorful strands fluttering through the air. You dare to discipline a disciple of my heaven-splitting battle sect? Who do you think you are? A large man with a broadsword resting on his shoulder appeared in front of Long Chen. He spat toward Ma Xingkong disdainfully. Seventh boss is mighty. Long Chen, Bao Buping and Chang Hao cried out at the same time. Bao Buping and Chang Hao hadn't known that the seventh boss would come. But Long Chen had long since sensed the seventh boss's existence due to the medicine he had given to all the bosses. To an alchemist, that was a specific marker. That was why Long Chen hadn't been afraid from the start. The seventh boss's arrival slightly surprised Dan Xing and the others. Although they had known that the heaven-splitting battle sect would likely have sent someone to protect them, they hadn't expected that the heaven-splitting battle sect's concealing arts would be so amazing. Suddenly, someone let out a surprised cry. Everyone followed the voice to see a certain thing, and all their expressions became odd. At this time, Long Chen and the others' gazes were also attracted. What they saw was Ma Xingkong. When Long Chen clearly saw what Ma Xingkong was wearing, an expression of disbelief involuntarily appeared on his face. A dress. All they saw was that beneath Ma Xingkong's blown-away outer clothes was a fiery red dress. It was extremely attention-drawing. An old man wearing a dress? What a pervert! Just looking at him hurts my eyes. Bao Buping looked away, looking like he might vomit. Ma Xingkong's face was completely red, which made the large handprint on his face even more noticeable. He had an urge to smash his head into a wall and kill himself. This dress was covered by his outer robes, and normally others wouldn't be able to see anything beneath it. This dress was called the raiment of rainbows and feathers. It was an extremely powerful protective ancestral item. But regretfully, it was an item for women. After obtaining this ancestral item, Ma Xingkong had hesitated for a long time, but in the end he hadn't been willing to give it away. That was because a powerful protective item like it could make up for the fatal weakness of the heaven-suppressing magic sect's experts, their weak bodies. Ma Xingkong had decided to wear it in the end. But for appearances he always wore 2 sets of male robes on top of it. That way he wouldn't be exposed. In truth, this raiment of rainbows and feathers had truly saved his life. Otherwise, the 7th boss's attack wasn't something someone with a weak physical body could endure. But now it was awkward. Everyone was staring at him strangely. That made Ma Xingkong's face twist in embarrassment. The sight of an old man wearing a fiery red dress truly possessed destructive power. Long Chen, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human. Ma Xingkong immediately took out a large robe and put it on to cover the dress. Old bastard, does deciding to come out in a dress and prostitute yourself have anything to do with me? Cursed Long Chen disdainfully. Instead of cursing the 7th boss, this idiot actually cursed him. Did he think he was an easy target? Good job, Long Chen. That slap was excellent. The 7th boss patted Long Chen on the shoulder and then gave him a thumbs up. It had truly been amazing. Hee hee, 7th boss praises me. This is what practice makes perfect means. I've had so much practice, so of course I've gotten good at it, said Long Chen very modestly. Ma Xingkong clenched his remaining teeth so hard that they creaked and almost broke. Flames almost spurted from his eyes. Long Chen's words were a huge insult to him, because when he had tried to capture Long Chen last time, he had also been slapped across the face just like this. That matter had become a well-known secret. Countless people had laughed over it, turning Ma Xingkong into a laughingstock. Now, before the old injury had even healed, a new one had struck him again. Furthermore, this slap had occurred in front of this many life star experts. It was 100 times more embarrassing than last time. Right now, the rancor in Ma Xingkong's eyes could practically kill a person. You are from the heaven-splitting battle sect? Dan Sheng finally opened his mouth, his tone as arrogant as ever. Are you blind? Or have you never learned to read? Don't you see the markings on my robes? The seventh boss glanced at Dan Sheng. Dan Sheng's question was nothing more than a polite formality. Normally, a person would respond with yes, or something like, do you need something? Then they could continue speaking. But the seventh boss's reply made it so Dan Sheng had no way of replying politely. Pay attention to your words, raged Dan Sheng. He was truly furious now. After all, he came from the Pill Tower, and no matter where he went, he was a high and supreme figure. He was used to other people speaking respectfully to him. Don't try to act like some big shot. In the eyes of my heaven-splitting battle sect, your Pill Tower isn't worth a fart. Ever since my sect was established, we didn't eat a single one of your pills, said the seventh boss disdainfully. He didn't give a damn about these experts. Long Chen is a heaven Caesar. Does your heaven-splitting battle sect want to protect him? If so, the entire righteous path will become your enemy. Do you dare? Shouted Dan Sheng. You say Long Chen's a heaven Caesar, so he's won? Where's your proof? Sneered the seventh boss. There are dozens of disciples within the Xiantian Dao sect who can testify that Long Chen is a variant heaven Caesar. After killing geniuses, he steals their talent and forcibly gives it to others. The explosive growth of the Dragon Blood Legion is the best proof, said Dan Sheng coldly. Long Chen's heart shook slightly. How could anyone in the Xiantian Dao sect deliberately target him? But he quickly understood that Dan Sheng was just forcing it. Back when he had increased the power of the Dragon Blood Legion, he had shaken the entire Xiantian Dao sect. In order to suppress the waves caused by this, Li Tianxian had placed the responsibility on himself. At that time, he had said that the Xiantian Dao sect was in the midst of testing a secret method to upgrade its disciples' talent. Back then, Li Tianxian had simply helped cover things up. He had thought that Long Chen would only be increasing the Dragon Blood Legion's power once. Covering up such a thing was a minor thing with his power. But then, the Dragon Blood Legion had continuously advanced. Rank 5, Rank 6, Rank 7, and Rank 8 Celestials sprang up like spring bamboo after the rain. There was no longer any way to cover this up. If he forced it and said that this was still the Xiantian Dao sect's secret method, then that would be enough to shake all the central plains. Furthermore, the Xiantian Dao sect's alchemy pavilion had exploded. Without any powerful alchemy resources as a backer, how could they raise so many geniuses? Furthermore, they had already advanced 3 times. That made no sense. If the Xiantian Dao sect truly had such a method, there was no way they would only use it on the Dragon Blood Legion and none of the other disciples. So just a slight consideration revealed a flaw in Li Tianxuan's original declaration. He was clearly helping Long Chen conceal some secrets. With the Pill Tower's power, baiting a few of the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples to testify against Long Chen was as easy as turning a hand. As long as the Pill Tower used that, then if Long Chen didn't give them an explanation, they could truly accuse him of being a variant heaven Caesar. What naming sense? A variant heaven Caesar, truly well done. Long Chen cursed inside. Although he didn't know the full story behind this yet, he could guess the general circumstances. In truth, the Pill Tower wasn't planning on giving him any opportunity to hand over his secrets. After capturing him, they would forcibly take his secrets and then kill him. They would use his death to give a harsh lesson to those powers that supported him like the heaven-splitting battle sect, the Xiantian Dao sect, and the Grand Xia ancient nation. Long Chen didn't know where the Pill Tower had received the news that he would be here so that they could lie in wait. They had clearly come prepared. As for that Bloodkill 9, he had clearly long since known about this arrangement, but had still come to assassinate him. However, he only had one chance. Having failed that one chance, he didn't have a second one. The Pill Tower wouldn't let others ruin their plans. So Bloodkill 9 didn't want to waste the effort, nor had he wanted to offend the Pill Tower. He left after just saying a few words. "This counts as proof? Are you trying to make me laugh? Then as proof Long Chen isn't a heaven Caesar, every disciple of my heaven-splitting battle sect will testify," said the seventh boss disdainfully. You are insulting Pill Valley's prestige," roared Dansheng. He found that there was no way to talk reasonably with the seventh boss. Even relying on intimidation didn't have any effect. "Don't think so highly of yourself. Who do you think you are? With me here, none of you can touch a single hair on Long Chen's head. Either scram, or let's fight. My blade hasn't tasted the blood of life star experts in a while. It's long since gotten thirsty. If you want to die, then come," shouted the seventh boss, stabbing his broadsword into the ground in front of him, battle intent soaring. "Since you want to die so badly, we'll help you out." Dan Sheng coldly waved his hand, and the surrounding life star experts all moved forward. The atmosphere instantly became tense like a drawn bow. Then we'll thank you for helping us out." Just at this moment, heaven-shaking laughter rang out from the sky. Heaven-shaking laughter rang out as 6 figures descended from the sky. They were shockingly the heaven-splitting battle sex bosses. They had all gathered. What shocked everyone was that they had jumped from the top of the Blood Sovereign Seal's stone pillars. In other words, all this time, they had been hiding there. It was no wonder no one had sensed them. Their auras were completely covered by the Sovereign Blood Seal. Boss Bao stood at the front, leading the other bosses in standing in front of Long Chen's group of 3. Staring indifferently at the experts in front of him, he said, "I am Boss Bao. I look forward to seeing how you help us out." Although the bosses were only at the peak of the soul transformation realm, they cultivated the battle god's sacred canon. Their auras were extremely condensed, and their power was not weaker than any of these life star experts. The difference between them could be likened to a large wooden hammer and a small iron hammer. Although the iron hammer was smaller, it was harder. At least on the surface, the difference in combat power between them wasn't too vast. The heaven-splitting battle sex experts were famed for how tough they were. They almost seemed suicidal. Fighting across realms for them was not strange at all. In truth, as soon as Long Chen's group of 3 had entered Devil Spirit Mountain, Boss Bao and the others had already arrived and hidden themselves on top of the stone pillars, quietly waiting for them to return. Who could possibly not feel apprehensive? This was Devil Spirit Mountain, one of the 7 great danger zones. It was famous as a land of death. The 7 of them had been hiding on the stone pillar the entire time, none of them saying a word. They hadn't been in the mood to speak, and each minute had passed by slowly. Then, they had sensed experts arrive and secretly seal the entrance to Devil Spirit Mountain, shocking them. But when they saw that the experts were from the ancient races and the Pill Tower, they were put at ease. Those people were Long Chen's enemies. They had clearly come after receiving news that Long Chen had been spotted here. They knew Long Chen best, and for them to come here meant that they felt Long Chen had some chance of coming back alive. And Long Chen really hadn't let down Dansheng. He had truly come out. But the Bloodkill Hall's assassin had been a surprise. Even Dansheng and the others hadn't sensed the assassin. Right in front of everyone's watching eyes, he had managed to sneak his way in and launch an assassination attempt on Long Chen. The Bloodkill Hall's concealment arts were truly unrivaled. If Long Chen didn't have the sharp senses of the 9-star Hegemon body art, he really might have long since died. After failing his ambush, that assassin immediately retreated, bringing the first act to a close. Now a new act had started. Boss Bao's group of 7 peak soul transformation experts were facing 13 life star experts and over 50 soul transformation experts. And yet, the boss's expressions were completely calm. Battle intent was soaring out of them. Each one of the heaven-splitting battle sex experts was warlike, and hot blood flowed within their veins. Standing there, they were like 7 mountains. Although they were soul transformation experts, Their auras caused the Life Star experts' hearts to pound. The heaven-splitting battle sex experts rarely interacted with the rest of the world, and no one wanted to provoke these madmen. Therefore, only a few people knew about their true power. Today, just seeing the bosses standing there, Dan Sheng and the others felt their hearts shaking. They didn't even need to start fighting for them to sense their power with their experts' intuition. It was no wonder that back in the golden age of the heaven-splitting battle sect, they had practically dominated the Central Plains. Even though they had declined to the point that their inheritance had almost been severed, they still possessed such power. As both sides silently faced each other, the atmosphere grew tense. A battle of experts on the Life Star level possessed the power to destroy heaven and earth. Consider this carefully. Protecting Long Chen is to become enemies with the world. You will have provoked every cultivator under the heavens, and your heaven-splitting battle sect will be instantly destroyed. I'd advise you said Dan Sheng. He could already tell that this matter wasn't going to be as easy as he had thought. The heaven-splitting battle sect was actually this powerful. Originally, he had felt that bringing 13 Life Star experts to capture Long Chen had been overkill and people would laugh at him for it. But now that Boss Bao and the others were here, Dan Sheng felt regretful that he hadn't brought more people to suppress them with numbers and power. Stop farting. My heaven-splitting battle sect doesn't accept any threats. Whoever wants to destroy my heaven-splitting battle sect can come and try it. We'll see who destroys who. Boss Bao waved his hand, cutting off Dan Sheng's words. He disdainfully said, "Don't play such useless games with me. The men of the heaven-splitting battle sect never take that crap. If you don't want to accept it, then just fight. We'll see whose life is hardier. Also, there's no need to try that idiot trick of driving a wedge between us. Long Chen is one of the Xian Tian Dao sect's disciples, but he is also a disciple of the heaven-splitting battle sect. If anyone dares to touch a hair on the heaven-splitting battle sect's disciples, the entire sect will go all out against you." Boss Bao's words completely blocked any other paths. There was no room for compromise now. Either scram or fight. Fine. Since you want to fight, I'll accompany you. To block me from carrying out Pill Valley's orders, there's no need for your heaven-splitting battle sect to exist any longer. Dan Sheng was ashen with rage. In truth, he didn't really want to fight. These experts had only been brought as a display of force, but Boss Bao didn't fall for that. Flames erupted from Dan Sheng's body. Those flames were a dark gold color, even incinerating heaven and earth. All the soul transformation experts on his side hastily fled. This was Dan Sheng's core flame. Even soul transformation experts were unable to resist it. A huge flame blade condensed in his hands. Runes revolved around it, causing the air to shake. It slashed toward Boss Bao. This attack could incinerate the heavens and boil seas. The air of the world ignited, making them all feel like they were about to suffocate. Dan Sheng's core flame was too terrifying. Long Chen, Bao Buping, and Chang Hao hastily fell back as well. Long Chen looked around and directly pulled the two of them to the stone pillar. That was definitely the safest place. Anyone who attacked them would also have their attacks strike the stone pillar. Attacking the stone pillar would provoke a counterattack from the Sovereign Blood Seal, and that was just suicide. When did this world start needing your Pill Valley to interfere? Do you really think that no one else knows your wild ambitions? Idiot! Boss Bao sneered and slashed his broadsword out. With an explosive sound, golden flames filled the sky. Boss Bao was devoured by those dark gold flames, but a barrier appeared around his body, blocking the flames. He wasn't the slightest bit injured. The battle god's protection? Weren't you supposed to have already lost this inheritance? Dan Sheng couldn't believe his eyes. Do you think the matters of my heaven-splitting battle sect have to be reported to your Pill Valley? Sneered Boss Bao. His broadsword shook, and scarlet light suddenly burst out of it. Boom! It was like a volcano had exploded from Boss Bao's broadsword. All of Devil Spirit Mountain quivered, and Dan Sheng felt a huge burst of energy sending him flying. Taste my kick! Dan Sheng had only just been blown back when Boss Bao appeared in front of him, sending a kick straight for Dan Sheng's face. This was an extremely humiliating attack, infuriating Dan Sheng. When would he have ever been insulted like this? Heaven-Earth Flame Chain. Dan Xing waved his hand, and a chain formed of flame runes wrapped around Boss Bao. This chain caused space to wildly twist. It was a terrifying attack, and being entangled by it would definitely be troublesome for Boss Bao. Boss Bao sensed a great danger from the chain. He hastily pulled back his foot, not touching the chain. He slashed out his broadsword at it. Naive. Dan Xing sneered. With a one-handed seal, the chain seemed to come to life, becoming a wriggling serpent that dodged Boss Bao's slash. Suddenly, the chain exploded, transforming into thousands of tiny chains that wrapped around Boss Bao like a huge net. It happened too suddenly for Boss Bao to react. The chains tightly bound Boss Bao over and over until he became a huge cocoon. Everyone was shocked. In an instant, Boss Bao had fallen into desperate straits. Time for you to die. Dan Xing smiled sinisterly. Still forming one-handed seals, those chains tightened, trying to crush Boss Bao. Boom. But those chains had only just started to tighten when they exploded. The flame runes shot out, revealing Boss Bao. A rune had appeared on Boss Bao's forehead, and his aura shook the void. He looked like an undefeatable battle god. You think this little trick is enough to kill me? Today, I'll let you see the true power of the heaven-splitting battle sect. Boss Bao sneered and shot into the air. His broadsword pointed at the sky. In that instant, a desolate aura gathered from every direction and pierced into the clouds. A huge sword appeared within heaven and earth. That energy froze the world as every drop of desolate aura in this place was sucked dry. Split the heavens 5. That huge sword splitting heaven and earth slashed down at Dan Xing with a domineering will. Dan Xing's expression sank and a harsh light shone in his eyes. He didn't dare to look down on the power of this sword. Don't think that only your heaven-splitting battle sect has secret inheritances. Dan Xing rapidly formed hand seals. Seeing those hand seals, Long Chen's pupils shrank. At this moment, sacred chanting filled the air, sounding like the murmuring of gods. This is the Nirvana scripture. Long Chen's heart shook. This Nirvana scripture's hand seals were completely different from the Nirvana scripture he knew. And the chanting sound was also not the same. Is this to say that there is another section of the Nirvana scripture? In the eastern wasteland, he had heard that the Pill Tower's Nirvana scripture was nothing more than a part of it. Now that he heard this Nirvana scripture, a strange feeling rose in his heart. It felt like this scripture was extremely familiar, but he was sure he had never heard it before. As he listened to this chanting, certain scenes appeared in his mind, yet they were clouded and unclear, making it impossible for him to grasp them. The first time he had studied the Nirvana scripture, he had instantly mastered it as if he had known it the entire time. Now that he heard this new Nirvana scripture, it also sounded familiar. But he didn't recall any memories about it. Regretfully, Dan Xing's hand seals came too quickly, and Long Chen hadn't been prepared for this, so he didn't manage to memorize his hand seals. By the time he reacted, flame energy was already pouring over to Dan Xing. Spirit of Fire. As Boss Bao's attack fell, Dan Xing summoned a huge flame giant. The flame giant was comparable to a mountain, and it held a huge flame blade. Boom! The two heavenly blades crashed together. Flames exploded, and it was like even the heavens would be incinerated. The flames spread in every direction. Some wild cultivators around Devil Spirit Mountain hadn't fled and were watching eagerly, but as a result, these flames directly turned them to ash without a sound. Even soul transformation experts who had fled into the distance were only barely able to block the flames. Only Life Star experts could remain standing in their original locations. As for Long Chen's group of 3, they were hiding behind the bosses, so they didn't need to worry about safety. They solemnly stared at those two figures in the sky. At this time, Boss Bao was slashing his sword continuously, unleashing huge rays of sword chi that shattered the void. But Dan Xing continued to form hand seals from the top of the flame giant's head, controlling it to defend. Each exchange could destroy mountains and rivers. He was an extremely powerful alchemist with an impeccable control over flames. The flame giant was as nimble as his own body, and it wasn't the slightest bit sluggish. This display of power shocked the other Life Star experts. They rarely got to see alchemists fight, and although they had heard that other than water element experts, only a few could contend against them, they had never personally witnessed it. Just by summoning their core flame, an alchemist could make it so others couldn't even approach them without being incinerated. Just how were you supposed to fight them? At the same time, they were shocked at Boss Bao's power. It had to be known that Boss Bao's cultivation base was still at the peak of soul transformation. For him to be able to fight evenly against the powerful Dan Xing was also shocking. They could all tell that Dan Xing's power was superior to any of the other Life Star experts here. But Boss Bao was equally powerful. Everyone, don't just stand there. The Tower Master had already taken action, so we should go. We'll capture that little brat Long Chen. If anyone dares to stop Pill Valley from enforcing the law, they can be executed as well, shouted the heaven-suppressing magic sect's Ma Xingkong. First, he gave the heaven-splitting battle sect a bad name of those blocking justice, and then he waved the banner of Pill Valley. That would give them a reason to attack. Even if all the heaven-splitting battle sect's people were slain, Pill Valley would definitely stand on their side. Ma Xingkong allowed everyone to stop having any misgivings about attacking. As for Ma Xingkong himself, he took out a magical staff and waved it. 8 golden flying lances appeared around him and shot toward the bosses. Ma Xingkong was truly sinister. He didn't dare to charge up to the front, so he attacked from the crowd instead. Now the other Life Star experts had no choice but to attack, or it would all be too apparent that they weren't helping and had only come to watch the fun. Ma Xingkong's attack pulled open the prologue of another immense battle. All the Life Star experts summoned their domains and charged. The domain of a Life Star expert was extremely powerful. Other than being able to suppress people with lower cultivation bases than them, they would be able to sense any sneak attacks within it. In truth, that was the greatest use of the domain, as being able to sense everything around them was very important. As for how Ma Xingkong had still been slapped by Long Chen despite having his domain up, that was just his own carelessness. He could only blame himself for having no close-range combat skills. The 7th boss snorted and slashed his sword, destroying the 8 golden lances. Ma Xingkong's attack had been nothing more than a probing blow. He had only done it to start the battle. If you want to die, then come. The 7th boss charged out. He was like a tiger descending his mountain, his eyes sharp and ice-cold like falcons. The first person he charged toward was an ancient race expert. That expert's golden spear unleashed waves of light as it stabbed toward the 7th boss. Boom! The 7th boss's broadsword slashed into the ancient race expert's spear. Sparks flew and everyone's ears shook from the sound. This was an exchange without any skill. It was a competition purely of power. And the result was that the ancient race expert who was extremely confident in his power was sent flying. He was shocked and hastily stabilized himself. He was just about to attack when his expression suddenly changed. The 7th boss hadn't retreated after his first attack. Instead, his broadsword was slashing toward his opponent's waist. His movements were as quick as lightning, and he was striking at the most difficult angle to block or dodge. Long Chen cheered inside. The 7th boss truly had some skill. Although his first attack had seemed like a full-strength attack, he had actually been holding back. If the two had both used their full strength, they should have both been blown back. But the 7th boss had used a bit of soft energy to cushion the exchange, allowing himself to charge forward without falling back. Just being able to achieve such a thing showed that the 7th boss's power was a level higher than this ancient race Life Star expert. The 7th boss was already sending a second attack just as the ancient race expert stabilized himself and prepared to attack again. This attack could easily take his life. Seeing this, another ancient race expert came to the aid, blocking the attack with his saber. Sparks flew, and both sides were blown back. The first ancient race expert was pale. There was now a cut on his bleeding waist. If his ally hadn't blocked the attack for him, he'd have been cut in two. But even though someone had hastily come to his aid, the 7th boss had been prepared from the start for an all-out attack, while his reinforcement had come hastily. The two of them were blown back. In just the first instant, the 7th boss almost killed an ancient race expert. Seeing this made Bao Buping and Chang Hao's blood boil. This was how a true expert should be. This was what it meant to be domineering. "Attack together to kill these obstinate madmen," shouted Ma Xingkong. He continuously waved his staff, summoning ice arrows that launched toward the other bosses. These ice arrows had runes at their tips that made them incomparably sharp. They'd easily tear through armor. "Everyone be careful. That dress-wearing pervert is using some sinister move. These ice arrows possess an explosive power," shouted Long Chen as he saw the truth of the arrows. Just as he shouted his warning, those ice arrows began to explode as they landed. The exploding ice arrows transformed into sharp needles that once more shot toward the bosses. "An insignificant trick." The third boss sneered and suddenly stabbed his sword into the ground. A powerful explosive sound shook the heavens. A huge wave of earth raged through the air, and those flying ice needles were immediately knocked away. Now it was the Life Star experts that were caught off guard as the ice needles exploded in their direction. It had to be known that these ice needles would definitely injure Life Star experts if struck. Although they wouldn't be fatal, they would be painful. As a result, as they dodged the ice needles, the bosses attacked. Those Life Star experts were temporarily panicked. There was one that was almost killed by the fourth boss. The scene immediately became chaotic. There were only 1,000 miles of open space around Devil Spirit Mountain, too small for a battle of this scale. Thus, they all flew into the air to fight. "Second boss, you don't need to protect us. Go help the other bosses." Dan Xing didn't bring any useless people this time. "They're all powerful opponents," said Long Chen. Right now, only the second boss remained beside them as protection. The head boss was fighting with Dan Xing, while the 3rd to 7th bosses were fighting 12 Life Star experts. It was far too taxing on them. These Life Star experts were not ordinary people. They were all tough opponents, completely different from those idiots that had gone to provoke the heaven-splitting battle sect back then. The second boss could also tell that they had come prepared. The 5 of them were now at an immense disadvantage. "Will you be all right?" asked the second boss gravely. If he left, the soul transformation experts would attack them. "Don't worry about it. Playing these idiots to death is as easy as turning over a hand." Long Chen patted his chest confidently. "All right, then be careful." The second boss nodded. He trusted Long Chen. Taking out the broadsword on his back, the second boss flew into the air, directly entering the intense battle. He had only just left when those soul transformation experts looked at Long Chen like wolves staring at a sheep. "What are you looking at me for? Do you believe me when I say I'll kill you all with a single slap?" snorted Long Chen disdainfully upon seeing those soul transformation experts looking down on him. "Brat, you're quite brazen. Even at this time, you dare to be so arrogant," said an ancient race soul transformation expert sinisterly. In their view, Long Chen was putting on a strong front for himself. It was simply laughable. "Have you ever asked around about me? When have I ever not been arrogant? Do you think a few dung beetles like you can intimidate me? I'm not trying to brag, but I'm too lazy to even kill weaklings like you. And the heavens say that killing people is immoral, so I don't feel like killing you either. It would be best if you just killed yourselves to save me the effort." Long Chen clasped his hands behind his back, looking down his nose at these soul transformation experts that were staring at him like tigers looking at their prey. Even Bao Buping and Chang Hao were shocked. This was too arrogant, wasn't it? Just where did Long Chen's confidence come from? He actually called for a group of soul transformation experts to kill themselves? That was crazy. "Die, you brat." One of the Pill Tower's soul transformation experts couldn't bear it any longer and waved his hand. A flame tiger condensed in the air and roared at Long Chen. That flame tiger wasn't a living creature but a magical art attack. It was composed entirely of flame runes, and it was extremely powerful. As a magical art that could mimic a living creature and be controlled, it was even more flexible than ordinary magical arts. "Fool, I'm the ancestor of playing with fire. Do you believe me when I say your little tricks can be broken by just a fart from me?" Long Chen disdainfully looked at the tiger, seemingly didn't have the slightest intention of blocking. "I don't believe you." The pill tower expert's fury soared. He looked to be in his 50s, but he was actually several centuries old. Hearing Long Chen call himself his ancestor made him immediately send the flame tiger to attack with its paw. This pill tower expert had some control. He wasn't completely crazy. He knew he had to leave Long Chen alive, or he'd have simply launched the tiger at them and made it explode, killing the three of them. You don't believe me? Then I'll show you. Long Chen suddenly turned and bent his waist. That posture was just like he was trying to expel toxic gas from his butt. But it just so happened that this movement of his ended up allowing him to dodge the tiger's claw. With the claw having missed its mark, it continued onward until it landed on the stone pillar right behind Long Chen. That expert from the pill tower immediately turned white, terror filling his eyes. He let out a startled cry. No! Buzz! The stone pillar's runes lit up and a blood-colored light blew apart the flame tiger, continuing toward that expert. That soul transformation expert didn't even move. He was directly struck by the light and exploded into bloody mist. It wasn't that he hadn't wanted to move, but that he had been locked down by a kind of mysterious energy and couldn't move. He had only been able to watch as that light killed him. Not only did it destroy his physical body, but it wiped out his Yuan spirit as well. Now you should all be satisfied. Only now did Long Chen slowly turn back, making it seem like he really had just let out a fart to kill that soul transformation expert. Everyone was staring dumbly. Even the bosses who were fighting had strange expressions. Long Chen truly didn't walk an ordinary path. Even with just a fart, he conned a soul transformation into dying. He was evil. Before this, the second boss had still been uneasy and afraid for them, so he hadn't been able to fight freely. That way, he would still be able to save them. But now, he was completely at ease. That brat was evil, and worrying for him was unnecessary. Instead, he should be worried for these soul transformation experts. Running into Long Chen was their bad luck. Bao Buping and Chang Hao were delighted. There was such a terrifying protective talisman right behind them, but they hadn't thought of it. If any of these soul transformation experts tried to approach them, they would be approaching the stone pillars, and then they wouldn't dare to unleash their full power. If they touched the stone pillars, they would die. Long Chen, take a break. I also want to stand out a bit. Seeing that Long Chen had displayed such divine power, Bao Buping hastily pulled him back and walked forward. Bao Buping stuck his chest out and loftily cursed, "You little brats, your daddy is right here. Hurry up and send yourselves to your deaths. Long Chen's fart only managed to kill one of you. That's nothing. As long as I try a bit, one of my farts can kill all of you at once. Little brats, your daddy will give you a display as to what it means to shake the heavens with a single fart." Watching Bao Buping mess around like this, Long Chen was speechless. Did he really think they had no brains and would fall for the same trick twice? "Junior, you're courting death." One of the ancient race experts couldn't bear it and charged forward furiously. At this time, Bao Buping had his butt raised high into the air, so naturally the ancient race expert immediately sent a kick to his butt. "Fool, when it comes to kicking butts, you can't possibly match my family's old boss." Bao Buping sneered and suddenly his arms came out from under his crotch. Using this extremely strange posture, he caught that person's ankle. Bao Buping had been getting his butt kicked from a young age. He was skilled in 36 different defensive postures and 72 ways to dodge. Moreover, he had over 100 techniques for counterattacking. This was all the result of the training with the bosses. As for that soul transformation expert, when would he have ever encountered such a bizarre technique? He was instantly caught. Shocked, he was just about to start struggling. "Get going." Bao Buping swung his arms, and borrowing the power of that person's kick, he flung him into the stone pillar behind him. The soul transformation expert instinctively circulated his spiritual yuan to form a defensive barrier around him. "Don't." The other soul transformation experts let out a startled warning. If he didn't circulate his spiritual yuan, touching the stone pillar wouldn't be dangerous. But with his spiritual yuan circulating around him, crashing into the stone pillar would be viewed as an attack. Regretfully, it was too late. That soul transformation expert smashed into the stone pillar, and the pillar's runes once more lit up. That soul transformation expert blew up like he was made of tofu. Even his Yuan spirit was slain. A second soul transformation expert had died in just a few breaths. As for Long Chen's group of 3, these experts hadn't even managed to harm one of their hairs. Long Chen stared at the sovereign blood seal, lost in thought. When those 2 soul transformation experts were slain, he had stopped the primal chaos bead from absorbing their heavenly Tao energy. When he carefully sensed it, he found that those 2 fallen soul transformation experts' heavenly Tao energy really was absorbed by the sovereign blood seal. Did this mean the sovereign blood seal still had more strange secrets? Right now, Bao Buping was staring blankly at the foot remaining in his hand. A soul transformation expert had been killed by him. He almost couldn't believe it. That happened a bit too quickly. Which one of you wants to help me out so I can experience it again? I want to conscientiously experience it. Bao Buping tossed the foot to the ground and turned to the distant, shocked soul transformation experts. Hey, don't be so cruel. No matter how you put it, it should be my turn now. Chang Hao refused to allow this. The first one had been Long Chen, and the second had been Bao Buping. So the third one should be him. All right then. Well, raise your butt. Yes, just like that. Wait, a bit higher. Yes, that's the right angle. Yup, if you stand like this, they'll quickly come and kick you. Bao Buping began to assist Chang Hao and adjust his angle like an old master, helping him raise his butt high toward the soul transformation experts. Hey, why aren't you coming? Raising my butt like this is very tiring. Hurry up. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one came, Chang Hao shouted at them. The soul transformation experts' faces were as dark as the bottom of a pot. Killing intent was exploding out of their eyes, and their teeth were clenched so hard that they almost shattered. If it weren't for the stone pillar, they'd annihilate the 3 of them with a single attack. These 3 fellows were too hateful. They had never encountered anyone as hateful as them. Long Chen expressionlessly watched as those 2 put on a show. At first, he thought that they were just intentionally infuriating the soul transformation experts. But now, seeing their serious expressions, he felt like he had overestimated their heads. In truth, they were serious. This kind of intelligence was something Long Chen had no choice but to prostrate himself toward with admiration. Furthermore, being serious made their provocation 10 times more effective than someone faking it. Those soul transformation experts were so furious their eyes were turning green. Long Chen even saw some of the ancient race experts with their hair standing on end like they would explode. He sighed inside. Life was like a play that required acting. But no matter how realistic your acting was, it was still fake. When those 2 acted seriously, they could definitely infuriate people to death. This kind of ability was something he would probably never be able to learn in his lifetime. I can't hold back any longer. Suddenly, one of the ancient race experts shot over like a furious lion, sending a punch at Chang Hao. It could be said that he hadn't completely lost his reasoning. At least, he was sending a punch instead of a kick. Boom. Chang Hao suddenly raised a foot, kicking at his fist. However, even without using his aura, that soul transformation expert's punch was extremely powerful, and it knocked Chang Hao back several steps. I'll smash you brats dash. The ancient race expert let out a heaven-shaking roar. Pow! Halfway through his roar, his face was suddenly struck by a slap. The immense power behind the slap caused half his face to cave in and his blood to fly. Long Chen had finally taken action. This slap sent the expert flying, and the direction he sent was perfectly toward Bao Buping. Oh, the food has come. Bao Buping laughed and slashed his sword down. Blood splashed as that soul transformation expert's head exploded under Bao Buping's sword. Blood splashed as another soul transformation expert was slain due to his own carelessness. 3 soul transformation experts had died. Although this couldn't count as a heaven-shaking matter, it wasn't insignificant either. But here, the deaths of these experts couldn't even cause a ripple. For 3 powerful soul transformation experts to die here because of their carelessness was truly beyond belief. And their deaths were exceptionally sad. They were cut down by 3 brats only in the foundation forging realm. Such deaths were too vexing. At this time, the other soul transformation experts also charged forward, but they were all acting carefully. They didn't use any magical arts. All they dared to do was use physical power and their weapons. One of the ancient race experts clenched his teeth and charged at Long Chen, slashing his saber down. Competing in power? Long Chen sneered inside. He also slashed his saber out, clashing with the ancient race expert's blade. The ancient race expert was actually blown back and crashed into another ancient race expert behind him. Both of them tumbled back into the distance. When it came to pure physical strength, after undergoing the baptism of the heaven-earth divine pool, Long Chen's power had reached a level that even he himself feared. Perhaps if a soul transformation expert used their full power, Long Chen would still have some trouble handling it, but he had no fear for any of them when competing in pure power. He had only just blown back one of them when another expert stabbed a sword at him. That was an elder wearing the Righteous Path's robes. He was incredibly quick and struck from a crafty angle that showed he was an expert in using a sword. He stabbed his sword straight at Long Chen's ribs. But what shocked that elder was that when his sword struck Long Chen, it was like it had stabbed into the hide of a dragon. The tip of his sword pierced in 3 inches before he could no longer move it. "Watch out!" Someone gave him a warning, but it was too late. Long Chen intentionally took his attack just to land his own. Originally, this soul transformation expert had been completely confident that once his sword stabbed into Long Chen, his vast spiritual yuan would instantly seal all of Long Chen's meridians, allowing him to easily capture him alive. That was why he had completely ignored Long Chen's saber when attacking Long Chen. Instead, he had been full of disdain at Long Chen's actions. But with his sword in Long Chen's body, his expression suddenly changed when he started circulating his spiritual yuan. He found that the spiritual yuan he poured into Long Chen's body seemed to be instantly absorbed. Based on the difference in cultivation realms, a foundation forging cultivator's spiritual yuan capacity could be likened to a cup, while a soul transformation cultivator's spiritual yuan capacity would be like a water tank. But this soul transformation expert felt his spiritual yuan pouring into Long Chen's body like a stream flowing into a sea. There wasn't even the slightest ripple. How was he supposed to seal Long Chen's acupuncture points like this? Just as he was filled with shock, Long Chen didn't give him any chance to recover. His saber slashed through his opponent's waist, cutting him in two. This soul transformation expert had a powerful physical body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to block the power in Long Chen's saber and would have instantly exploded. Despite being cut in two, that soul transformation expert didn't panic. His upper body flew into the air and formed hand seals. He used heavenly Tao energy to reconnect his body. But just at this moment, a broadsword smashed through the back of his head, causing it to blow up. Bao Buping sneered, "Stop wasting our time. Just die." Even in this intense battle, Bao Buping had managed to grasp hold of this opportunity to take the life of a soul transformation expert. With his head gone, a translucent figure appeared out of his body. It was his Yuan spirit. This was a powerful point of the soul transformation realm. In this realm, even if a person's physical body was destroyed, their Yuan spirit could survive on its own, giving them the chance to seize another person's body and be reborn. However, that Yuan spirit had only just flown out when a hand of flame caught it and sucked it into a bottle. "This is good stuff to Cloud. Can't waste it," laughed Long Chen. He directly put away that soul transformation expert's Yuan spirit. The soul-devouring violet flame was extremely effective against souls, so that soul transformation expert's Yuan spirit didn't even have a chance to resist before being put away. Soul transformation experts could condense Yuan spirits, but not everyone had powerful Yuan spirits. For example, the ancient race's Yuan spirits were normally very weak. Sometimes, an attack didn't even need to contain a spiritual aspect to destroy their Yuan spirits. So the ancient races had a tough time when it came to this aspect. "Bastard, you say you aren't a heaven Caesar, yet you gather people's Yuan spirits. You're even more evil than the corrupt path," roared a righteous expert. Long Chen's saber danced, blocking the attack of 3 soul transformation experts. He sneered, "So what if I gather your Yuan spirits? Aren't you trying to capture me in the same way?" Just how much crap is in your heads? Long Chen's principles were simple. Anyone who attacked him or tried to take his life would have to be prepared to be killed by him. He didn't feel any guilt about this. After continuous soul transformation experts were slain, the remaining ones all realized the danger. These three fellows were too powerful, and they definitely couldn't treat them as ordinary foundation forging experts. That was especially true now when they didn't dare to use any magical arts or big moves. Relying purely on their physical bodies, they were at a disadvantage. Long Chen's group of three seemed like magical beasts in human form. Even the ancient race experts weren't able to match them in physical strength. As for Long Chen's group of three, they were used to this kind of fighting. Chang Hao and Bao Buping managed to kill two soul transformation experts as well. With their battle intent soaring, they were just about to unleash their auras when Long Chen sent them a warning not to, dumbfounded them. Although they didn't understand, they had absolute trust in Long Chen, so they continued fighting this way. It went without saying that the three of them truly possessed terrifying physical bodies. That was especially true of Long Chen. In just a few breaths' time, he killed 4 soul transformation experts. In exchange, he ended up covered in blood. Wait, why are we fighting like this? We'll be fine as long as we don't use any magical arts. Why bother suppressing our auras? Just as the 13th soul transformation expert was slain, one of them let out a startled cry. The others only now realized that he was right. As long as they didn't touch the stone pillars, they would be fine. Why did they have to suppress their auras? In truth, they had just been scared witless by the sovereign blood seal, as well as infuriated to the point that they became muddle-headed by Long Chen's group of 3. Only now did they realize the truth. The ones who had died would probably be filled with regret if they ever learned of this. Bao Buping and Chang Hao now understood why Long Chen hadn't let them release their auras. It was to not remind these stupid people. Damn it, you crafty little brats. One of the ancient race experts roared furiously. His heavenly Dao runes appeared behind him, and a heavy pressure descended upon Long Chen's group of 3. He was actually a rank 7 celestial. Following him, the other ancient race experts also unleashed their auras, summoning their cries of the heavenly Daos. Their combat power rapidly rose. Bao Buping and Chang Hao also unleashed their auras. The pressure of rank 8 celestials shot out. However, their cultivation bases were too low to suppress their enemy's heavenly Dao energy. Foundation forging, Jade Core, Soul transformation. There were 2 major realms between them. Furthermore, they were surrounded. They immediately lost the ability to fight evenly against the group of soul transformation experts. Seeing that the soul transformation experts had finally seen the truth, Long Chen had a bad feeling. After just a few exchanges, he knew they couldn't keep fighting. With their current power, perhaps in a 1-against-1, they would be able to fight against soul transformation experts, but with this many of them unleashing their auras, even though they didn't dare to use magical arts or any big moves, Long Chen's group of 3 weren't capable of handling it. It would just be a few more seconds before they wouldn't be beaten into dead dogs. Beat it! Long Chen fiercely slashed his saber out, using his full power. The soul transformation experts around him were forced back. Thereafter, Long Chen grabbed Bao Buping and Chang Hao, who were already panting, and fled into Devil Spirit Mountain's entrance, instantly vanishing. The soul transformation experts were immediately dumbfounded. They stood there like wooden statues. From the other side of the sovereign blood seal, they heard Long Chen's shout. "We will definitely come back." What? The soul transformation experts stood there, stunned. One of them wished he had the power to say, "What just happened?" Over 50 soul transformation experts had jointly attacked 3 foundation forging disciples. There had been a 2 major realm difference. But 13 of them had been slain, and then those 3 had patted their butts and left. That left these soul transformation experts stunned and infuriated. The more they thought about it, the more they felt like they might explode. Each one of them stared at the entrance obstinately, as if waiting for the 3 of them to come back out. Long Chen, that was amazing. Why didn't we think of this? Bao Buping and Chang Hao prostrated themselves toward Long Chen in admiration after being pulled into the channel. This channel only allowed people at the Jade Core realm and below to enter. Those soul transformation experts couldn't follow them. Should we go back now? Asked Bao Booping as soon as they entered. Long Chen shook his head. Perhaps you didn't sense it, but the formation that those creatures established makes it difficult for people to return once they enter. Unless we exit the formation and come back in, the formation won't let us find the exit. Let's go over there. The first time they had entered, Long Chen had already noticed something strange about this place. Now that feeling was even more clear. This was like a cage that only allowed fish to come in but not leave. Once they were in, they couldn't find the way back out. Although he didn't know why they would set up the formation like this, with his senses from the 9-star Hegemon body art, he could guess some general rules. We have to go back there? Bao Booping and Chang Hao's expressions changed. Despite how big their guts were, thinking of those terrifying creatures still made their hair stand on end. This was truly a situation of having the wolf behind and the tiger in front. If they were to choose, they'd rather face those soul transformation experts. At least, there would be some chance of survival and they could bring a few of them down in death. But as for the more powerful creatures from this world, they would have no chance against them. Going was sending themselves to their deaths. Don't worry about it. Those higher-level creatures won't keep watching forever. Long Chen led them carefully over there. As expected, the distance to reach this spot was extremely short. It wasn't long before they exited the black mist. Their vision brightened. They had only just exited the formation when they saw a mass of creatures scurrying back and forth, busy with work. Seeing the three of them, those tens of thousands of creatures were shocked. "Ah, I'm glad to see you're all still well after so long apart. We came back just to see you." Long Chen raised his hand toward the creatures like he was greeting old friends. Long Chen's smile was very intimate and innocent. It looked just like the naive smile of a neighborhood boy. It was a warm smile. But in the eyes of these creatures, that smile was even more terrifying than a fiend. That was because as Long Chen smiled and waved, his right hand was raised in the air, and a huge sphere had long since started rapidly growing above it. When Long Chen's group of 3 had fled back then and one of the powerful experts of this world had chased after them, that expert had been annihilated by the sovereign blood seal. That had terrified the other powerful experts, and they had all retreated, leaving behind only some low-level creatures to clean up the battlefield. Previously, Chang Hao had made an opening in the formation here, and then Long Chen had launched Starfall, magnifying the damage to the point that the formation even lost its self-repair mechanism. Repairing such a huge formation required them to clean up the battlefield first. Many of these creatures had been slain, and their corpses needed to be put away. That was why there were now only these low-level creatures present. Even the strongest one of them only had the aura of the Foundation Forging Realm. There weren't even any of the silver-winged creatures. Seeing Long Chen arrive, those creatures all jumped in terror. Looking at that huge sphere in his hand, feeling the world trembling as the Nirvana scripture was activated, they turned and fled. Starfall. The sphere in Long Chen's hand shot out like a shooting star. Everywhere it passed, the ground erupted. It shot out over 1,000 miles and then exploded. Those flames devoured everything within tens of thousands of miles. All of Devil Spirit Mountain shook. Bao Booping and Chang Hao were filled with shock. Last time, they hadn't seen it clearly. All they had felt was a terrifying chi wave send them flying. But this time, they clearly saw the power of Starfall. Its destructive power made their scalps numb. After releasing Starfall, Long Chen turned and fled. While fleeing, he shouted, "Friends, this small gift cannot fully represent my respect for you. Let us meet again." Long Chen, Bao Booping and Chang Hao quickly fled, the flames racing behind them. "Long Chen, why does your own magical art attack yourself?" Bao Booping shouted as he felt that lava-like heat behind him. "How novel. Are you saying your farts only disgust others but don't assail your own nostrils?" snorted Long Chen. The 3 of them fled as fast as they could, but they were still caught by the flames. Long Chen summoned a flame barrier that protected them. Although they were blown away, they weren't injured. Now, the huge opening in the formation had grown even larger. Long Chen sensed that the damage to the channel had greatly weakened the laws of the channel as well. They quickly sensed several terrifying auras approaching. The powerful creatures had clearly been startled. The three of them quickly fled straight toward the sovereign blood seal. What made Long Chen sigh in relief was that he sensed those terrifying creatures stop right at the border of the formation. Then they didn't continue chasing. They clearly didn't dare provoke the sovereign blood seal. Ah, how refreshing. I've never been this refreshed in my entire life. Long Chen, following you is truly stimulating, cried Chang Hao, almost dancing with excitement. These past few days with Long Chen had finally allowed him to experience true stimulation. It was so stimulating that he almost died from it. In the heaven-splitting battle sect, he had led them to beat the bosses, and now in Devil Spirit Mountain, he had even conned these terrifying creatures. In the outside world's view, these creatures were absolute fiends. But in Long Chen's eyes, they were like ants. He randomly came over and slaughtered a bunch. If this news spread, it would be enough to shake the entire world. Then in front of the entrance to Devil Spirit Mountain, they had slain 13 soul transformation experts. Even Bao Buping and Chang Hao had never dreamed that they would have such accomplishments by following Long Chen. In their eyes, Long Chen was practically an omnipotent god. Long Chen, when we get out, why don't you use Starfall again? That move is awesome. Why are you looking at me like that? Asked Bao Buping, feeling that Long Chen's gaze was a bit odd. It seemed to vaguely conceal something called disdain. Do you not feel embarrassed asking? Long Chen shook his head. First of all, my flames only have a great effect on these creatures. It's unknown whether my flames could even break those soul transformation experts' runic barriers. And even if they could break the barriers, it would only singe their hair. It definitely can't cause any true injuries. Second of all, Starfall has a huge area of attack. It doesn't differentiate between friends or foes. Once used there, it will definitely strike the sovereign blood seal. Now do you understand why I'm looking at you like this? Only then did Bao Buping realize what would happen if Long Chen really used Starfall, and he became covered in cold sweat. That sovereign blood seal also didn't differentiate between friend or foe. If they attacked it, it would instantly erase them from existence. Then what are we supposed to do? Wait a few days before going out to take a look? Asked Bao Buping. Why wait? We're all busy, so who has time to wait for them? Here's what we'll do. Long Chen suddenly began to tell them a plan that made their eyes light up. The three of them looked toward the sovereign blood seal. Looking at the exit below, they flew right over. But they didn't fly side by side. Long Chen was at the front, and they flew at the back. Outside the entrance to Devil Spirit Mountain, the heaven-splitting battle sect's 7 bosses were fighting an intense battle with 13 life star experts in the air. It was an incredibly fierce battle that shook the sky. Boss Bao and Dan Sheng's battle was the most intense. Runes exploded and flames devoured the heavens. Both of them were unable to get an advantage. The battle was in a temporary balance with neither side able to defeat the other. In truth, according to normal standards, other than Boss Bao and Dan Sheng's fight, the other 6 bosses were already at a disadvantage against the life star experts. After all, these life star experts were extremely strong, and 5 of them possessed ancestral items. They were steadily suppressing the 6 bosses. But the 6 bosses were extremely tough and unafraid of death. Their moves were all vicious, and these life star experts had to fight cautiously as a result. After all, they had only come to help. If they lost their lives, it would be completely not worth it. So they were all very careful and didn't dare to go too far. The heaven-splitting battle sect's bosses now couldn't help but feel a bit worried inside. It seemed they had been too careless this time. But the one thing that comforted them was that Bao Buping and Chang Hao were with Long Chen. They should be fine. As for the soul transformation experts, they lined up in front of the sovereign blood seal, forming a blockade. They stared at the portal below the seal. Mist was constantly pouring out of there. This portal was extremely curious. On the outside, they couldn't see anything on the inside and vice versa. Although they might be just one step apart, it was like teleportation. Could those 3 brats have died in there? Asked a soul transformation expert worriedly. After all, Devil Spirit Mountain was one of the 7 great danger zones. It was famed for being a land of death. Dying inside was simply natural. They shouldn't. After all, they already came out once, replied someone. But he clearly wasn't confident. After all, they hadn't entered Devil Spirit Mountain before and didn't know what the situation inside was. Your daddy Long Chen has returned. Kids, face your death. Suddenly, without any warning, a figure charged out of the entrance. Before they could even see his face, a mountain-like object smashed toward them. That was a huge cauldron. It smashed down with immense power, causing the ground to split open. The soul transformation experts retreated as soon as they reacted. But the cauldron had smashed down without any warning. 3 of them didn't have time to flee because they had been at the center of the attack. A huge hole appeared in the ground, and those spirit transformation experts were smashed to bits by the cauldron. Even their yuan spirits disintegrated. The others were blown into the air by the power. But just as they were about to counterattack, 2 huge swords slashed toward them. These swords were both 3,000 meters long. They weren't sword images but the true bodies of swords. Such huge bodies could only be possessed by ancestral items. Those 2 ancestral item swords were Bao Buping and Chang Hao's. Although they were unable to bring out an ancestral item's power, they were still the masters and could order their items to summon their true bodies. Their explosive and sudden attack caused another 3 of these experts to be blown apart. The 3 of them were truly unlucky. They were from the Pill Tower, and they hadn't had time to summon any flames to protect themselves. Their physical bodies blew apart, and their yuan spirits flew out. But before they could run, a flame hand caught them and they vanished. Bastards die. The remaining spirit transformation experts only reacted now and unleashed their auras, their runes protecting them as they attacked. Quite a few of them had red eyes. That wasn't because of emotion for their fallen comrades, but because of the 3 ancestral items. Those were priceless treasures. Even Life Star experts wouldn't necessarily possess one, and not one of these people had one. Soul transformation experts had the ability to unleash some of the true power of an ancestral item, but they were too poor to even own one. Now seeing 3 foundation forging rookies using ancestral items like children wearing gold in front of beggars, their greed exploded. Bao Buping and Chang Hao jumped in shock. These people's hungry wolf-like eyes were incredibly sinister. It looked like their fathers had just been slain. The 3 of them put away their ancestral items and vanished back into Devil Spirit Mountain. A familiar voice rang out like a blade stabbing their ears. We will definitely come back. This one sentence had even more power than an ancestral item. Several soul transformation experts coughed up a mouthful of blood. You goddamn brats, I'll definitely tear you into a million pieces. A furious and miserable roar like a wolf's cry resounded throughout Devil Spirit Mountain, lingering in the air for a long time. Starfall. A shooting star shot out at Devil Spirit Mountain. This time was different from last time. Long Chen hadn't even gone out of the formation. Instead, he sent out this attack from within the channel. The formation around this place had been continuously broken down to the point that it was no longer fully functional. Just halfway through it, Long Chen was able to return whenever he wanted. There was no need to exit the complete formation before returning. Long Chen sensed several terrifying auras on the outside of the formation. Those terrifying creatures were waiting for him now. So he didn't dare to go over. But just because he couldn't go personally didn't mean he couldn't send a gift. A 300-meter sphere shot out. Outside the barrier, there were several of those terrifying creatures that were 30 meters tall, waiting for Long Chen. But what awaited them was Starfall. Boom! Terrifying flames exploded, and even those powerful creatures went all out defending, they were unable to completely stop the power of Starfall. Of course, Starfall wasn't able to injure them. But its explosion got past them, and the weaker creatures in the distance ended up unlucky. Those violet flames would instantly incinerate weaker ones. The others managed to escape with their lives because they were farther away, but they were still charred. Those terrifying creatures let out a heaven-shaking fury. Their fury almost ignited this world. One of them directly charged towards the channel. That shocked the other creatures, and they hastily pulled him back. If any of them entered the channel and approached the sovereign blood seal, they would be turned to dust. You're welcome for the gift. Since we're all busy, we won't stay behind for dinner. Let us meet again. Long Chen bid them farewell from the channel and once more fled, afraid of being chased. But these terrifying creatures no longer dared to chase after their last lesson. This is amazing. These damn creatures treat humans as pigs for the slaughter, and even use our corpses as tools. This is exactly how we should handle them. Bao Buping and Chang Hao both felt that this was addicting. They had long since started hating these creatures to the core. They were still infuriated that they hadn't been able to bring back the heaven-splitting divine tablet or their senior's corpse. Although they had killed quite a few which had helped them vent, and Long Chen Starfalls had killed an unknown number of them, they still weren't quite refreshed. Are we going to do the same thing as last time? Asked Chang Hao. No, this one trick can't be used more than once. Those fellows aren't idiots. They'll definitely spread out this time and make some distance. What we did last time won't work this time. Long Chen shook his head. Then what do we do? Asked Bao Buping eagerly. It's easy. Just listen to my call-outs. Long Chen smiled faintly. Outside Devil Spirit Mountain, just as Long Chen had predicted, those soul transformation experts had put some distance between them and the entrance. They also spread out. This way, they wouldn't have to worry about a sudden attack. Furthermore, being a bit farther from the sovereign blood seal meant that they could use some stronger moves. They just had to avoid affecting the seal. These soul transformation experts glared hatefully at the small channel below the sovereign blood seal. Their auras were still circulating as they prepared themselves to kill in one move. They couldn't kill Long Chen, but they could kill Bao Buping and Chang Hao to take their ancestral items. As for Long Chen's ancestral item, it was the Pill Tower's treasure, and even if they snatched it, it would still be returned to the Pill Tower in the end. But Bao Buping and Chang Hao were different. Once they killed them, whoever managed to snatch their ancestral items would get to keep them. Suddenly, the channel opened, and a figure charged out carrying a 10-meter cauldron. It was Long Chen. Kids, your daddy Long has returned. Submit or fight. Long Chen had already charged off at two soul transformation experts standing together. These two experts came from the same sect, and seeing Long Chen charging at them, they cursed their bad luck inside. The other soul transformation experts mostly ignored Long Chen. They continued staring at the channel, clearly waiting for Bao Buping and Chang Hao to appear to take their ancestral items. As for those two soul transformation experts, they didn't dare to be careless. Their swords slashed through the air at him. But what they hadn't expected was for Long Chen to suddenly send the cauldron flying over to them. Boom! Their sword chi was blown apart by the blazing dragon cauldron, and due to how hard Long Chen had thrown it over, its speed only dropped slightly as it continued towards them. The two of them were delighted. Long Chen had actually taken the initiative to send them such a good thing. Once they snatched this ancestral item from him, although they wouldn't get to keep it, the Pill Tower would definitely have to give them some benefits. No matter how strong Long Chen was, it wouldn't be enough in front of two soul transformation experts. His sudden attack with this cauldron posed no threat to them. It was no different from giving it to them. The two of them attacked at the same time, unleashing sword light that once more slashed at the blazing dragon cauldron. When their attacks were about to land, the blazing dragon cauldron suddenly rapidly grew, becoming 300 meters tall. Does making it bigger do anything? Its power has already run out. The two soul transformation experts sneered. The blazing dragon cauldron might have grown larger, but its speed had already dropped. In their eyes, Long Chen's attack had been completely useless. As expected, when their attacks landed, the blazing dragon cauldron shuddered and came to a stop. The two of them excitedly reached out to grab it. But at the exact moment that they stopped the blazing dragon cauldron, two figures flew out from within it. Two huge sword images soared into the sky and slashed down. Split the heavens four. The two sword images intersected as they fell. The two soul transformation experts instinctively began to prepare their defenses, But they weren't as quick as Bao Buping and Chang Hao, who had been storing up their energy this entire time. The two of them had been hiding in the blazing dragon cauldron this entire time just for this moment. And everything went according to plan. Their unexpected attack allowed them to slay those two with even their Yuan spirits dying. Nice. Good work. Praised Long Chen. The three of them had worked together flawlessly. After succeeding, they immediately turned to flee again. Bastards, keep dreaming. Don't even think about getting away again. At this time, the four soul transformation experts had already gone to block the area in front of the sovereign blood seal, preventing them from getting away. Haha, if you are capable of blocking the power of your daddy's cauldron, go ahead. Long Chen laughed brazenly and then began to charge over like an elephant, with one hand pushing forward the huge cauldron. Brat, don't look down on others. The four soul transformation experts were enraged. Did Long Chen really think he could just barge his way through them? He was only a foundation forging brat. If they couldn't even block a foundation forging when fully prepared, there would be no need for them to continue living. With the sovereign blood seal behind them, they didn't dare to unleash any huge moves. But working together to block Long Chen's charge was easy. They had all made their preparations to block him at full power. Divine Ring. Battle Armor. Long Chen shouted, and his divine ring appeared behind, emitting a scared aura. For stars appeared in his eyes, and his aura transformed. He suddenly seemed like a devil, looking like he wouldn't stop no matter what. In that instant, the soul transformation experts felt a chill in their hearts. They felt like they had been locked onto by a ferocious beast. Get smashed, lambkins. Long Chen smashed the huge blazing dragon cauldron at the four soul transformation experts. Even space was compressed as it fell to the point that it was about to explode. Boom. The four soul transformation experts went all out blocking, but they were all blown away. One of them had his upper body explode, and even his martial weapon shattered. The four of them all hacked up blood. They were all shocked, and runes circulated around them, forcibly stabilizing them. No! The soul transformation expert whose upper body had been smashed apart suddenly let out a terrified cry. He was flying straight towards the stone pillar and couldn't stop. He panicked and despaired. There was no suspense. His body smashed into the stone pillar and instantly exploded into bits. Another soul transformation expert was slain. At this time, all the soul transformation experts were dumbfounded. Previously, they hadn't placed Long Chen's group of three in their eyes. In terms of true power, they should have completely suppressed them. But now four soul transformation experts had worked together but still not been able to stop Long Chen. Although Long Chen had a weapon advantage with his ancestral item, he wasn't able to unleash its true power. At most, he only had an advantage in hardness and weight. This showed that even without an ancestral item, Long Chen would be a match for any one of them. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been such a miserable result. They were finally shaken. At the foundation forging realm, Long Chen was a match for soul transformation experts. Their expressions became dull. After blowing those four soul transformation experts away, Long Chen also received a backlash. He almost coughed up blood, and his hand bled. He was also knocked back from the collision. But just at that moment, Bao Buping and Chang Hao extended their hands and pushed him forward. The three of them continued onwards without pause. Long Chen put away the blazing dragon cauldron, and the three of them disappeared into the channel to Devil Spirit Mountain. The other soul transformation experts had tried to stop them, but regretfully, they had just been a little bit too far away. Kids, just wait. Your daddy will definitely come back. Long Chen's shout once more rang out, this time with even greater destructive power. All these soul transformation experts quivered intensely and coughed up a mouthful of blood at the same time. Long Chen's group of three had only just entered the channel when they collapsed on the ground and began to crazily pant. After consecutive intense battles, they were dog-tired. The only difference was that they didn't have their tongues lolling out. Fuck, so addicting and satisfying. Bao Buping could barely breathe, but he still gave Long Chen a thumbs up through his panting. Even in that kind of situation, They had slain 3 soul transformation experts. This sense of accomplishment made him feel like he was about to start floating. When they returned to the heaven-splitting battle sect, he could brag for a lifetime. Who would dare to go against him? But after so many battles, especially that last one, they had used up all their energy and needed to rest. After an incense stick's worth of time, they slowly got up. Bao Buping said, "It looks like our efficiency is dropping. The first time, we killed 13 of them before running. The second time we got 6, and this time we only got 3. Don't be so greedy. Those are soul transformation experts, not chickens. We only killed so many the first time because they were stupid and worked together with us. Otherwise, how could we have such terrifying battle accomplishments?" said Longchen. Now that their opponents were prepared, the difficulty increased. That was only natural. "Let's go. I want to see if we can kill more of those creatures again." Longchen led them carefully forward once more. This time, he was particularly careful. The formation had already been completely broken, and they could leave at any time. But they still couldn't get too close to those terrifying existences. They had to have enough time to run away. But as they advanced, his expression became odd. He didn't sense any feeling of danger, nor was he able to sense any of those creatures' auras. When they reached the spot where the formation had originally been, they saw that it had been completely abandoned. What was in front of them was merely some ruins and charred earth. Not a single one of this world's creatures could be seen. "Where are they?" Chang Hao stared blankly. "Their shifts are over?" Bao Buping also had a bewildered expression. Long Chen swept his gaze over the ruins and shook his head. "There's nothing for us here. This world's creatures aren't stupid. They've decided to run." Clearly, just being beaten without being able to retaliate wasn't something these creatures wanted to continue. Unable to think of any way to strike back, they directly gave up and ignored them. Fuck, seriously? How gutless. They conned so many of the continent's experts during these years, but we only conned them a few times and they fled. No balls, cursed Bao Buping. But thinking about it, that was easy to understand. With the sovereign blood seal, they didn't dare to approach this place. Continuing to stay here was just being a target for Long Chen to attack. They didn't have any way to handle him, so they directly left. Long Chen's guess was that they hadn't truly retreated. They were probably secretly watching, and if the 3 of them really dared to go deeper, they would immediately seal their path of retreat. In truth, Long Chen didn't have any intention of charging back in again. It was just that he didn't have much choice but to come here over and over again because of what was happening on the other side. There was no way he would go deeper. "Let's go. There's nothing to kill here," sighed Long Chen, turning to leave. The feeling of being unrivaled is so lonely. Bao Buping sighed as well, shaking his head. If Long Chen said that, it would be one thing. But the 2 of us aren't qualified. Chang Hao was speechless. Bao Buping turned red. If Long Chen hadn't been present, they would have never managed to survive coming to Devil Spirit Mountain. How could they be called unrivaled? As brothers, him being unrivaled represents that we are unrivaled as well. His qualifications are ours as well, declared Bao Buping unashamedly. Long Chen smiled. "That's right. Between brothers, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. There's no need to make any distinctions. Chang Hao, you should learn from him." Do you see? This is all our joint glory." "Long Chen, what strategy do you have for our return this time?" asked Bao Buping. Long Chen shook his head. "There's no strategy. Even these creatures have run. As for those fellows, there's probably nothing for us to do against them either." When Long Chen's group of 3 once more appeared outside the entrance, as expected, those soul transformation experts had retreated a great distance. Sneak attacking them wasn't possible. Furthermore, they had spread out in a circular formation. No matter which direction Long Chen went, they would seal his path of retreat. "Now what?" asked Bao Buping upon seeing them hiding so far away. There was no way for their group to attack them now. "What do you mean, now what? We're in no rush. They're the ones in a rush. Speaking of which, I'm getting hungry. Let's first fill our bellies before fighting any more. That battle just now was pretty tiring." Just like that, Right in front of a stone pillar, Long Chen took out a table, some delicacies, as well as a jug of wine. The three of them immediately began to eat and drink their fill. The smell of wine and food wafted over to those distant soul transformation experts. Seeing the three of them eat like nothing had happened, their eyes turned blue from anger. They had seen arrogance before, but never anything quite so arrogant. They were treating them, soul transformation experts, as nothing more than air. "Hey, don't just look. Do you want to come over and eat?" Long Chen grabbed a piece of meat and gulped down a mouthful of wine, waving at those soul transformation experts with his mouth full. Bao Buping and Chang Hao were truly hungry. The heaven-splitting battle sex members were different from other cultivators. They needed a great deal of energy that came from food, not just spiritual yuan. Even if their spiritual yuan was full, an empty stomach would make their combat power drop a great deal. So eating was very important to them. These soul transformation experts' hair stood on end from anger as they saw themselves be treated as nothing by these three fellows who were stuffing their faces. They were like hedgehogs. If looks could kill, those three would have been killed hundreds of thousands of times over. Several of the experts almost charged over to kill the three of them, but they didn't dare to do so in the end. Who knew whether or not this was a trap? Perhaps they were intentionally infuriating them to bait them into coming over. In just this short time, they had been conned so many times. Even a pig would have learned its lesson. Thus, they didn't dare to approach. The more Long Chen's group of three ate, the more the others felt they were only trying to intentionally infuriate them. There was definitely some kind of sinister trap. "We have to stay cool-headed. Don't fall for it," warned one of them quietly. None of them dared to be careless when it came to Long Chen any longer. He was an evil bastard. The three of them devoured their food. In an incense stick's worth of time, they were full. Wiping their mouths, they turned their attention to the battle in the sky. Right now, that battle had already reached its climax. Runes filled the sky, and flying figures could vaguely be seen shooting back and forth. Space was constantly twisting. "Long Chen, it looks like the bosses are at a disadvantage," said Chang Hao worriedly. Although they hadn't reached that level, they could see that other than Boss Bao, the other bosses were finding it taxing to fight like this. That was because 5 of those Life Star experts were using ancestral items. Each of their attacks was incredibly powerful, making the bosses unable to fully block them. The 7th boss's sword already had several nicks in it from his opponent's ancestral item. Although the 7th boss's sword was a Peak King item, and the material that had gone into it was extremely close to the ancestral item level, there was no way around this. It couldn't compare to an ancestral item that had been nourished for countless years. Even if these opponents couldn't use an ancestral item's full power, his sword was about to shatter. Worrying Bao Buping and Chang Hao. Suddenly, an explosive sound rang out, and the 7th boss's sword was no longer able to endure colliding with ancestral items. It split in two, causing Bao Buping and Chang Hao's expressions to change. The heaven-splitting battle sex members focused on using their huge swords. Losing them would be like a tiger losing its fangs. The 7th boss would very likely die in just a few more moves. "7th boss, don't panic. The ancestral item has come." Long Chen suddenly let out a shout and threw a black object at the 7th boss. It was a black sword, one of the ancestral items he had obtained in Devil Spirit Mountain. But its quality was a bit inferior to Bao Buping and Chang Hao's weapons. When Long Chen had subdued it, because he had been forced to beat it fiercely with the pot, there was now a dent in it. Long Chen, Bao Buping and Chang Hao were both startled. That sword was something they had personally seen Long Chen submit. They were very clear on that sword's current state. It was basically half-crippled right now. How could it be used by the 7th boss to fight? If a weapon had to be given to him, he should have given them their current swords. After all, the swords they were currently wielding were wasted in their hands. But Long Chen had acted too fast for them to even say anything. The black sword was already flying through the air. "Ha! I'll help you keep this sword. Many thanks." One of the Life Star experts fighting the 7th boss suddenly used some unknown movement art to disappear. When he reappeared, he was right in front of that sword. He was so quick that others found it freakish. The seventh boss was infuriated to see this weapon land in the enemy's hands. He was just about to charge out when he heard Long Chen's voice. "There's no need to thank me. Let it count as your funerary object. Explode." Boom. What shocked everyone was that the black sword exploded without any warning. The detonation of an ancestral item instantly devoured everything within 1,000 miles. Space shattered, and the world turned dark as this energy spread like a tsunami. Despite being prepared, Long Chen's group of 3 still coughed up blood from that terrifying energy. As for the soul transformation experts, they weren't any better off. They tumbled back miserably, coughing up blood. The dark sky quickly recovered. They now saw that there was an empty space in the sky, and the life star expert that had been there had vanished. He had been killed. How fucking vicious. Seeing that empty space, all the soul transformation experts felt a chill. Cold sweat dripped off their backs. The self-detonation of an ancestral item was practically apocalyptical. Even life star experts going all out wouldn't necessarily be able to block that power. As for that particular life star expert who had so happily grabbed it, he had never imagined it would explode. Without any defenses up, he was instantly blown out of existence, with even his Yuan spirit destroyed. The only thing left was a bead. That was a life star expert's life star bead. It was where all their essence gathered. But at this time, that life star bead turned dim and then turned to dust. When advancing to the life star realm, a person would create 2 life star beads. The old one represented all their comprehension before advancing. It represented their glory up to that point in time. If an ordinary soul transformation expert obtained this life star bead, they could use the comprehension within it to advance to the life star realm. If a person relied on a life star bead to advance, they would still be life star experts, but they would be called quasi-life star. That was because such experts would never have their cultivation bases advance ever again after reaching the life star realm. They would have reached the peak of their life's cultivation. Only people who felt like they had reached their limit and despaired of ever advancing to the life star realm on their own would use a life star bead. The first one represented their past, and they had to separate it completely from their body to condense a new life star bead. The second life star bead embodied their present. It represented a cultivator that had escaped the bindings of the past. It was like a nirvanic rebirth, and their mental realms would rapidly advance. When a person was born, they were like a pure white piece of paper. As they cultivated, images were painted onto the paper. Through the accumulation of time, the paper would become full to the point that nothing else could be added to it. So if you wanted to continue advancing, you needed a new blank piece of paper to imprint the things you wanted. This was something all life star experts needed to go through. As for when life star experts were about to die, their second, innate life star bead would protect their Yuan spirit so that their souls didn't dissipate. But that life star expert hadn't had any defenses up, so he was blown out of existence, and not even his life star bead could protect him. As his soul was erased, the life star bead also dissipated. A generation's life star expert, someone on the level of a sect master, fell. How is that possible? How can Long Chen subdue an ancestral item? Cried someone. This was something fundamentally impossible. It had to be known that ancestral items were incredibly powerful. They were treasures left behind by powerful ancestors and needed a seal from those ancestors just to prevent them from attacking their new masters. Even a soul transformation expert wasn't able to subdue an ancestral item without a slave mark. In fact, they might even be killed by that ancestral item. Only life star experts were qualified to subdue them. Furthermore, sometimes even life star experts couldn't subdue the more powerful ancestral items. It would require several of them working together. The first thing that the blown-up life star expert had thought wasn't to subdue it, but to put it away to avoid disturbing its item spirit. It was because he hadn't tried to subdue it that he hadn't realized the difference between what he had imagined and reality. As a result, he lost his life. Little bastard, did I not beat you enough? Were you trying to con me? The seventh boss's face was green as he cursed. Just now, he had suffered an injury to force back his opponents and fly toward that ancestral item. But halfway there, it had exploded, and that terrifying power had blown him away and made him cough up blood. If he had been a bit faster, he'd probably be heavily injured. I said for you to not panic and that an ancestral item was coming. I meant it was coming to help. I never said I was giving it to you. But don't worry, I'll send you another one. Let's see if anyone tries to fight over it. After saying that, Long Chen grabbed Bao Buping's sword and threw it at the seventh boss. At the same time, he shouted, "Quick, everyone should grab it. If you miss this chance, it won't come again." Bao Buping's sword flew through the air at the seventh boss in front of everyone's gazes. But none of these Life Star experts tried to go and grab it. Although they had clearly seen Long Chen take it from Bao Buping, they didn't dare. He had obviously done that intentionally, as if saying, "Look, this ancestral item isn't mine. It won't explode, don't worry." Long Chen was too big of a conner. Of all the people that had died so far in this battle, none of them had been slain by the heaven-splitting battle sex bosses. Instead, they had all been conned to death by Long Chen. Whether it was soul transformation experts or Life Star experts, they were now afraid of his conning. After all, they only had one life. Being conned out of their life meant that they really would have nothing else left. The seventh boss caught the sword. His expression was strange as he said, "Brat, will it explode if I start fighting with it?" There's no way to say for sure. But don't worry, even if it does explode, it will only explode when there are many people attacking you at the same time. If you die from the explosion, there will definitely be several Life Star experts following you. "You won't have lost out at all," said Long Chen. "Ah, good, then little bastards, it's time to continue fighting," laughed the seventh boss thunderously while launching a sudden attack full of vigor. It was like he wasn't afraid of dying at all. "Sixth boss, you should take one as well. If anyone wants to try, they can come and try fighting over it." Long Chen grabbed Chang Hao's sword and tossed it to the sixth boss. The seventh boss and sixth boss were the weakest, and the sixth boss's sword had also become covered in cracks. It wouldn't last much longer. When Long Chen had taken Bao Buping's sword, the expression on Bao Buping's face hadn't been one of disappointment or sadness. Instead, it was a complicated expression. He both wished for there to be someone who tried to take and not to take it. Because if someone tried to, he was capable of doing the same thing as Long Chen and detonating it. Under the threat of the black pot, he had already placed a slave mark on the ancestral item. It was unable to resist his orders. In comparison to the blazing dragon cauldron which had managed to rebel against Dan Chu and Dan Teng, Bao Buping was currently the first-generation master of the ancestral item. The blazing dragon cauldron had had a slave mark placed on it by its original owner, but then future generations of its owners had only been in charge of protecting that slave mark. But in truth, the power of the slave mark had already long since begun to decline. As first-generation masters who placed a completely new slave mark instead of working around an old one, Long Chen and Bao Buping were both capable of detonating their ancestral items without them being able to resist. Bao Buping also longed to be able to kill a Life Star realm like Long Chen, but the price of showing off like that was extremely high, so he was conflicted. When his sword landed in the seventh boss's hand, he sighed in relief but also in disappointment. His emotions were very complicated. As for when Long Chen tossed out Chang Hao's sword, his expression was about the same as Bao Buping's. He could only stare, conflicted. Everyone present was a wily old fox. They all saw those complicated expressions. But in the end, the ancestral item wasn't stopped by anyone and safely landed in the sixth boss's hands. Gutless. Chang Hao sighed. In his eyes, exchanging an ancestral item for the life of a Life Star expert was definitely worth it. When he bragged, he could confidently say that when he was only at the Foundation Forging realm, he had killed a Life Star expert. The detonation of an ancestral item had killed one of the 13 Life Star experts, and 2 ancestral items had joined in. Although the 7th boss and 6th boss weren't the masters of these ancestral items and were unable to bring out their power, they no longer had to worry about their weapons shattering, so their fighting became even more berserk and unrestrained. As a result, the boss's previous disadvantage was wiped out. but suppressing their opponents would still be very difficult. Long Chen, what is it? Bao Buping suddenly saw Long Chen frowning and looking around, his expression growing grave. We've probably landed in someone's trap. Long Chen's expression was somewhat gloomy now. A bad feeling rose in his heart. But just at this moment, a blood-colored crescent moon appeared in the sky. When it shone, the entire world began to reek of blood. Boom! The blood moon detonated, transforming into millions of runes that covered heaven and earth. Everything within tens of thousands of miles was covered. Long Chen was startled. Pulling Bao Buping and Chang Hao, he rushed straight toward the channel below the sovereign blood seal. It's already too late. Blood moon devouring sun formation, arise. Suddenly, a burst of icy laughter rang out, devoid of emotion. Following it, heaven and earth shook as a blood-colored barrier appeared. Everything around here was enveloped by a blood-colored formation. Long Chen, Bao Buping and Chang Hao slammed into the barrier and rebounded, feeling their blood and qi flipping inside them. They coughed up a mouthful of blood. They had just been a bit away from being able to enter the entrance to Devil Spirit Mountain. But now this blood-colored barrier had enveloped everyone here. Long Chen's heart shook. Looking into the sky, he found that he wasn't even able to see the clouds any longer. The formation had turned everything blood-colored. It was full of the air of blood and death. The corrupt path. Long Chen's heart pounded hard. This kind of technique was something only the corrupt path would use. This formation was created by the essence blood of experts. It was extremely terrifying. This sudden change caught everyone off guard. They all stopped fighting. The 7 bosses landed in front of Long Chen's group of 3, protecting them. Boss Bao gravely said, "Now it might be troublesome." Bao Buping and Chang Hao's hearts immediately sank to the bottom of the valley. Even the always valiant Boss Bao said that it would be troublesome. It seemed this formation was something even Boss Bao was helpless against. On the other side, the Life Star experts led by Dan Sheng all had shocked expressions. The Righteous Path's experts were especially worried. "I am Dan Sheng, Pill Valley's 36th Elder. May I ask whatever person from the corrupt path has come to show themselves?" asked Dan Sheng loudly. Although the Righteous Path and Corrupt Path were like water and fire, Pill Valley was neutral and did not participate in their battles. Although this was unexpected, he still wasn't afraid. But the huge formation shook slightly, and countless blood-colored runes lit up. They formed figure after figure. Those figures fell from the top of the formation. They seemed like calabashes falling from the sky. They were a bit comical. But no one dared to laugh, because when the calabash-like runes faded, they revealed one powerful expert after another. When they saw tens of thousands of experts wearing the corrupt path's robes, even the 7 bosses' expressions changed. The formation created a huge blood-colored barrier that trapped them all. A murderous aura filled the formation. There was a strong air of death. As calabashes, formed of blood-colored runes, fell from the sky one by one, it made the entire formation seem like some kind of growth that was bearing fruit. When the runes slowly dissipated from the calabashes, they revealed corrupt experts wearing blood-red robes with images of fiendish faces on their chests. Everyone here sucked in a cold gasp of air upon seeing this. There were actually tens of thousands of corrupt experts. They stood in the air, looking like blood-colored clouds. Shockingly, 18 elders were standing at the front. They were all Life Star experts, and behind them were over 500 soul transformation experts. Other than those people, there was a huge crowd of Foundation forging disciples. These disciples didn't look very old, but their cultivation bases were extremely condensed. They were elites amongst the Foundation forging realm. Several of them had such powerful auras that they could be powerful rank 8 celestials. The thing that shocked Long Chen the most was that amongst the Foundation forging disciples, a certain disciple stood at the very front. He was like the bright moon amongst dim stars. He was a slender, handsome man, but his face was pale as paper. Most eye-attracting of all was his red-colored hair. The contrast between the blood-like hair and his pale face made him look even more conspicuous. Standing in the air, he looked down at Long Chen expressionlessly. But Long Chen could sense dense killing intent in his eyes. The righteous and corrupt paths could not coexist. The enmity between both sides was something that couldn't be washed away even with all the martial heaven continent's water. For him to form killing intent toward Long Chen was simply natural. But Long Chen felt like he could see another kind of emotion in his eyes. He didn't know if it was a misperception, but it felt like envy. Xian Jizi truly is worthy of being someone from Heavenly Fate Island. Other than Long Chen, he actually allowed us to catch so many other big fish. It was worth it to mobilize such a huge force. The lead corrupt life star expert laughed, his voice like blades stabbing through everyone's ears. This elder was withered and tiny like a dwarf. Pockmarks covered his whole face. His eyes were sunken, and his nose protruded out like a beak. It was an extremely frightening appearance. This old ghost is very powerful. Be careful. Bao Buping sent a message to his side. Although there were multiple life star experts present, this dwarf gave him the most terrifying feeling of danger. Long Chen was deeply shaken as well as infuriated. The Grand Han had received a heavy blow by that formation master called Xia Qin. But the Heavenly Fate Pavilion hadn't been harmed at all. Despite that, that bastard had once more schemed against him. The corrupt path had clearly been willing to pay any price to kill him this time. They had actually mobilized this many people and even set up this blood moon devouring sun formation, causing all of them to despair right at the start. 18 life star experts, over 500 soul transformation experts, and tens of thousands of foundation forging disciples. The power difference was stark. Long Chen saw each of these disciples holding a blood-colored jade tile. Most likely, those tiles were connected to this formation. The blood moon devouring sun formation must have required their collective power to form, or they wouldn't have brought so many disciples. A formation created by tens of thousands of people. Anyone with a head would know that this blood moon devouring sun formation had to be terrifying. Fuck, they really look too highly on me, cursed Long Chen inside. They had actually mobilized tens of thousands of experts to capture him. Was there a need to be so exaggerated? As soon as these corrupt experts appeared, they crushed both sides. With everyone trapped within the blood moon devouring sun formation, they were like absolute rulers. The dwarf from the corrupt path glanced at Dan Xing and hesitated. The pill tower and ancient races people can leave. The corrupt path was vicious, and they were like water and fire with the righteous path. When it came to them, in the end, one side would have to die. But the pill tower and ancient races were neutral powers. The corrupt path didn't want to have so many powerful enemies, especially not the pill tower. Dan Xing frowned. He could ignore the others, but Long Chen had shocking secrets on him, and he had to find those. Long Chen is someone my Pill Valley must obtain. I can't dash. He was using the name of Pill Valley to suppress the corrupt path and take back Long Chen. The corrupt expert's expression sank. Long Chen must be killed by my corrupt path. From the eastern wasteland to the central plains, he has caused heavy losses for us. Furthermore, in order to kill him this time, we even paid the price to summon the blood moon devouring sun formation and sent this many people. Do you feel like we'd possibly let you take him away? His voice was ice cold and he was clearly angry. He felt like Dan Xing didn't know to appreciate his kindness. The reason the corrupt path had mobilized so many people without caring about the rest of the world laughing at them was just to have a 100% chance of capturing Long Chen. Ever since the first righteous and corrupt battle in the eastern wasteland, Long Chen had been put on the corrupt path's must-kill list. But each time they made any moves to kill him, the plans were ruined and they took losses. Not only did they fail to kill Long Chen, but they actually allowed him to kill his way to the central plains. The eastern wasteland's corrupt path was even almost annihilated to the last man. This was the greatest humiliation in the corrupt path's history. From the eastern wasteland's corrupt path's must-kill list, Long Chen went directly to the central plains' corrupt path's must-kill list. Then in the battle over the eastern sea, due to Li Tianxuan's arrangements, one of their life star experts had even been captured alive. That had completely infuriated the corrupt path's higher-ups. Right now, Long Chen was a thorn in the corrupt path's side. To make sure Long Chen didn't have any chance of escaping this time, they had even used the blood moon devouring sun formation. Long Chen's growth was something the corrupt path had foreseen from the start. They definitely couldn't allow him to continue growing. His potential was too terrifying. Furthermore, in the past few years in the Central Plains, Long Chen's display had truly shocked the corrupt path. It wasn't just Long Chen. What shocked them was how Long Chen led the Dragonblood Legion to rise with him. Back in the Eastern Wasteland, this group had only contained 300-some members. Now they had grown to over 13,000. It was unknown what method Long Chen had used, but he was actually able to continuously upgrade their celestial ranks. That was a secret the corrupt path longed to obtain. So Danxing's attempt at using Pill Valley's name to intimidate the corrupt path showed that he clearly underestimated their determination. Long Chen is a criminal suspected to be a heaven seizer. Pill Valley had been implored by many sects to investigate this matter. If you do this, how will my Pill Valley continue with its long-standing dignity? Raged Danxing. Although the corrupt path was famed for its viciousness, Pill Valley wasn't afraid of them. Instead, it was the corrupt path that was afraid of Pill Valley. If Pill Valley cut off their supply of medicinal pills to the corrupt path, they would sooner or later decline. You think you can represent Pill Valley's higher-ups? I'm sure everyone here has their own understanding of whether or not Long Chen is a heaven seizer. Is there a point in uttering such a bald-faced lie? Only the righteous path's idiots like to play such games. If you get greedy for someone's treasures, just directly take them. What's the point of making such excuses that even children wouldn't believe? My corrupt path always disdains such things. Today, let me say it clearly for you. Long Chen must be brought away by me. If you dare to block me, don't blame me for not being courteous. This blood moon devouring sun formation is something formed from the essence blood of 36 of the righteous path's life star experts and millions of their souls. It is capable of both defense and offense. As long as I will it, you will immediately turn to dust, sneered the dwarf, his tone growing more and more impolite as he spoke, causing Danxing's expression to sink. The ancient race experts that had come along didn't dare to make a sound. They didn't have any dealings with the corrupt path. Both sides simply minded their business. But if these few experts provoked them, then the corrupt path wouldn't mind killing them. After all, they weren't from Pill Valley. The corrupt path didn't depend on them for anything. After the dwarf finished speaking, the other corrupt experts also sneered, infuriating Danxing. It seemed he had come for nothing. These friends I brought along must be allowed to leave as well. Just treat it as giving me face. Danxing took a deep breath and calmed himself down as much as possible. Right now, he had no bargaining chips to use against the corrupt path. After all, right now, everything was in their control. This blood moon devouring sun formation might not have shown any of its power yet, but anyone with a brain could tell that it was extremely terrifying. Otherwise, it wouldn't require so many people to maintain. Danxing didn't suspect the corrupt dwarf's words at all. The latter could kill the former with just a thought. Although Danxing was sure that he wouldn't dare to kill him, if the dwarf used that power to completely suppress him, he would lose his dignity. It was better to be smart and save himself that face. Sorry, but you don't have that much face. The corrupt dwarf shook his head. You. Danxing was infuriated by this. It had to be known that these people had come to help him in order to suck up to Pill Valley. If he allowed them to be killed, wouldn't their sects lose their faith in him? Of the life star experts that had come with Danxing, other than the ancient races, those from the righteous path had come purely to suck up to Pill Valley. If they were slain, it would be a blow to Pill Valley's prestige. Listen well. I've already conceded when it comes to Long Chen. I must be allowed to bring these people away, demanded Danxing. Looks like you can't understand my words. Then let me see if I can use something that you'll understand. The corrupt dwarf smiled icily. When his already twisted face smiled like this, he appeared as sinister as a ghost. But he formed hand seals and the entire formation shook. Countless runes lit up. Following the hand seals of the dwarf from the corrupt path, the blood-colored formation shook, and it was like blood was flowing within it. Baleful chi surged out, causing everyone to feel a chill. Suddenly, a blood-colored hand stretched out of the formation and slammed toward Dan Xing's group. How brazen! Dan Xing was infuriated that they would dare to attack him. They were ignoring Pill Valley's might. Seeing this mountain-like hand smashing toward him, Dan Xing summoned his flame giant once more. A flame blade appeared in its hand, and it slashed at the blood-colored hand. Bang! Shockingly, Dan Xing's terrifying flame giant was instantly blown apart. 36 figures appeared within the hand. They were crazily struggling within it, letting out ear-piercing wails that gave others goosebumps. Those are 36 life star experts from the righteous path. After being refined into the blood moon devouring sun formation, their anguish and resentment from before they died was imprinted into the formation. This attack is equivalent to the attack of 36 life star experts. Tell me, just how are you supposed to block me? Sneered the dwarf. Seeing this hand smashing toward them, the other life star experts brought along by Dan Xing went all out attacking it. But their attacks all blew up upon contact. They were powerless to stop it. Horrified, they hastily fled. But they suddenly found that they couldn't move. At some unknown time, the ground beneath them had turned scarlet. There was some kind of energy keeping them stuck to the ground. Bang! The hand slammed down. It was like it had landed amongst a group of ants. Dan Xing and the others were unable to resist. Once the hand caught them, it transformed into countless chains that bound them. Dan Xing and others' expressions changed. They found that these chains had some special energy that had sealed their cultivation bases. Are you trying to become enemies with my Pill Valley? Roared Dan Xing. We have no intention of becoming enemies with Pill Valley. But that doesn't represent that the corrupt path must submit to Pill Valley all the time. That's why you should shut your mouth for now. If you keep being irritating, I might not be able to hold myself back from getting rid of you. After saying that, a chain tightly bound Dan Xing's mouth. Dan Xing was infuriated, but he could no longer speak. Suddenly, 7 explosive sounds rang out, and 7 chains pierced through the middle of 7 life star experts' heads. Those life star experts shook intensely as they struggled painfully. But with their bodies bound, they could only struggle in pain. What shocked Long Chen and the others was that these chains seemed to be sucking something out of the 7 life star experts. Long Chen's gaze was icy. These life star experts had ignored right or wrong to suck up to the pill tower. They had brought about their own demise, so their deaths didn't make him feel any sympathy. But for the corrupt path to be killing them in this manner, they were clearly humiliating the righteous path to increase their own intimidating reputation. Back when Long Chen had first heard that the righteous path captured the corrupt path's experts and tortured them by grinding their skulls to powder and mixing it with mud to form walls as symbols of their achievement, he had felt a bit unnatural. But now he realized that these people from the corrupt path weren't even human. They were cold-blooded brutes. They had to be torn apart piece by piece, or there would be no way to resolve the hatred in people's hearts. In just a moment, the aura of life from those 7 righteous life star experts vanished, and the chains pulled out of their heads, leaving behind 7 large holes. Their bodies were nothing more than lifeless husks now. The dwarf waved his hand and gathered those corpses. Hee, the material for 7 life star puppets. My gains aren't bad this time, he laughed. As for the subordinates, they're useless. So, time for you to die. The corrupt dwarf glanced at the righteous path's soul transformation experts. They immediately turned stiff. Several of the righteous path's experts actually knelt down and begged, "Please, don't kill me. I'm willing to join the corrupt path. I'm willing to be used as a tool by the corrupt path. Just die. Trash like you isn't fit to join the corrupt path." The dwarf waved his hand, and red chains shot out from the sky at these soul transformation experts. They despaired. Some tried to flee, some gritted their teeth and prepared to resist. There were also some who directly gave up and stood there like a dead dog. Even life star experts couldn't resist in front of the blood moon devouring sun formation, so these little soul transformation experts were just ants. They didn't even have the bravery to resist. In front of death, these usually bold and powerful experts all showed their cowardice and terror, as well as their longing toward life. But in front of absolute power, they didn't have any choice. The chains fell. Those who tried to resist were directly blown to bloody mist, their weapons shattered. Whether they tried to resist, run, or just lay on the ground in defeat, they were all slain. Their unwilling screams still hung in the air as they vanished from the world. However, there were over 10 of them that didn't die. They were still bound in chains and hung in the air. They had already fallen unconscious. These people were from Pill Valley and the ancient races. The corrupt expert didn't kill them, but as a show of power, he completely bound them. Dan Sheng and the remaining 5 Life Star experts from the ancient races were also dangling in the air as prisoners. They were terrified. If the corrupt path wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as turning a hand. They finally experienced the terror of the blood moon devouring sun formation. When the wails and screams faded, everything within the formation became deathly silent. Now, it was Long Chen's group of 10 people facing tens of thousands of corrupt experts. The heaven-splitting battle sect used to have so many powerful existences. It's too bad that they declined to such a point and even needed their soul transformation experts to win face for their sect. What a shame. The dwarf shook his head with a pitiful expression at the bosses. Don't act so fake. If the 7 of us had advanced to the Life Star realm, do you think this little formation would be able to stop us? Boss Bao sneered. Now that things had reached this point, the bosses became calm. There was no way they could run. Thus, the only thing to worry about was whether or not they could drag a few corrupt experts down with them before dying. The only thing that they felt regretful about was that they had no way to send out Long Chen, Bao Buping and Chang Hao. For such talented geniuses to fall so early made them sigh. But they were all hot-blooded men. Even in the face of death, their expressions were calm. They didn't spout any nonsense. The dwarf ignored Boss Bao. Instead, he turned toward Long Chen. He suddenly spoke to someone behind him. Gui Yen, what do you think about this little fellow? That young disciple with the red hair slowly walked forward. It went without saying that when compared to the fierce and sinister appearances of the corrupt path, this person was an especially handsome existence. This red-haired Gui Yen looked at Long Chen and shook his head. I suppose he's all right. But he's very different from what I imagined. It's disappointing. I really doubt that he's the fellow Leng Yuan was talking about. How could he be so weak? He can't even last 10 exchanges against me. Boss Bao and the others' pupils shrank slightly. Through their sharp eyesight, they instantly saw through his true power. He was a rank 9 celestial. Long Chen was even more shocked than them. That wasn't because of his cultivation base or celestial rank. It was because of that name he mentioned. You know Leng Yuan? Asked Long Chen. Gui Yen smiled faintly. But that smile was not very natural because when he smiled, his face split open and blood flowed out. That was a terrifying injury. It was like a horizontal line that stretched across his whole face where his mouth was. This smile of his instantly revealed all his teeth. This injury looked like it had been caused by a sharp blade. If that blade had pressed forward any more, Gui Yan's head would have been severed at his mouth. Gui Yan put away his smile and wiped away that blood. The injury on his face also instantly healed. This injury was caused by Leng Yuan. She said my smile was very ugly, so she left behind this injury. Now, whenever I smile, the injury instantly splits open. It has been a long time since I smiled, but seeing you today, I couldn't help it. Gui Yan looked at Long Chen with rancor. Long Chen's heart shook. Just what realm had Leng Yuan reached? She was actually so domineering as to torment such a powerful person. When Gui Yan had smiled, Long Chen had sensed an extremely bizarre energy cut across his skin. The image of a perfectly beautiful face appeared in his mind. Those ocean blue eyes were like gems. Next time we meet, I will take your life. Be careful. This was something Leng Yuan had said to him in the immemorial path. Now seeing this terrifying injury, Long Chen felt a chill. That demoness had probably completely broken through any of her old limits. Gui Yan looked at Long Chen icily. Just because I smiled at her once, she attacked me, saying my smile was ugly. She said that if I could smile as brilliantly and wretchedly as you, I could come smile at her again. Otherwise, she would cut off my head. So I was very curious as to what kind of person you were. Did you have 3 heads and 6 arms? Just how outstanding were you? But now that I see you, I see you're just trash. Gui Yan's eyes almost had flames spurting out of them. Long Chen realized something and suddenly laughed. Long Chen suddenly laughed as if he had encountered some supremely funny thing. With death at hand, you can still laugh? Hopefully you can still laugh once I refine you into a puppet, said Gui Yan icily. After laughing for a while, Long Chen finally said, I know that you definitely tried to take some liberties with Leng Yuan for her to attack you. Not bad, not bad, that girl Leng Yuan is truly beautiful. I was never able to view her as a woman, but you're much stronger than me. You actually dare to dally with her, hee, admirable. Long Chen had to admit that Leng Yuan's beauty could shake a person to their core. With just her beauty, she could probably make a person die from enthrallment. But that murderous and baleful aura within her was something that people didn't dare to get close to. She was like a beautiful fiend. Getting close to her would make you lose your life. No matter how beautiful she was, it was impossible to view her as a woman, because the only thing she gave off was boundless killing intent. If you were to liken women to flowers, then Leng Yuan was a beautiful man-eating flower. Even now, you can still be sarcastic? Once I turn you into a puppet, I'll bring you in front of Leng Yuan and see what she says, sneered Gui Yan with a bit of hatred in his eyes. You should just give up. Do you think you can seduce Leng Yuan with your kind of conduct? If she can cut your mouth with her first attack, she'll definitely exterminate you with her second attack. Next time, she'll kill you like killing a chicken. You should stop being so cocky. Leng Yuan isn't someone you can have any delusions about. Long Chen smiled coldly. He felt the slightest bit of hope within these desperate straits. From some details, he could see that while that dwarf elder was the person with the highest authority here, he was vaguely fawning over Gui Yan when they spoke. Although his cultivation base was the highest, it seemed Gui Yan's status was particularly special. Long Chen had a skillful grasp over other people's emotions. He could tell that this Gui Yan was probably someone with an extremely high status in the corrupt path. If he captured him, perhaps he could use him as a protective talisman to threaten the corrupt path into letting them go. As for carrying out that plan, Long Chen didn't have any assurance, but right now it was his only hope. Although Long Chen was scoffing at Gui Yan right now, in truth, his heart was unsteady. After all, that was a rank 9 celestial. Although the previous assassin from the Bloodkill Hall was also a rank 9 celestial, Long Chen had only seen a fraction of his power. Yet even so, the power that the assassin had displayed still shocked him. A rank 9 celestial had to be a terrifying existence. If it was an all-out fight, he wouldn't be afraid. But wanting to capture a rank 9 celestial alive was extremely difficult. But the more difficult it was, the more challenging it was, the more Long Chen liked doing it. He intentionally mocked Gui Yan, and due to the envy Gui Yan already had in his heart, his killing intent immediately began to soar. The first time Gui Yan had seen Leng Yuan, he had been attracted by her peerless beauty. He viewed himself as exceptionally handsome, as a dragon amongst men in the corrupt path. Thus, he had taken the initiative to flirt with her. As a result, Leng Yuan had directly replied with her bone sword, leaving behind an injury that would never heal in his lifetime. That was extremely humiliating. This injury contained Leng Yuan's specific mark. Unless she died, the mark wouldn't disappear. In other words, each time Gui Yan smiled, his injury would split open and make him appear frightening. To a handsome expert, that was especially intolerable. Now being mocked by Long Chen, he didn't need Long Chen to put in any more effort. Gui Yan's aura began to rise. Long Chen, I won't let you die. I'll make you live a life worse than death. Gui Yan's voice came from between the cracks of his teeth. His hatred for Long Chen had reached a peak. Long Chen smiled inside. The corrupt path's people were truly easy to infuriate. It seemed the injury Leng Yueyan had left on him would now be paid back to Long Chen. But Long Chen didn't get angry about that. Instead, he was thankful to Leng Yueyan. She had allowed him to turn this hatred into a chance to escape. Gui Yan, hold on a moment. This isn't the place to have a fair battle. If you want to fight against Long Chen, you should wait until we get back. First, let's extract these people's souls and leave their bodies to be refined into puppets, said the dwarf. No, I can't wait. It's not like we're in a rush. I can definitely kill him within 10 exchanges. No, just 3 will be enough. Gui Yan ignored the elder's words. He slowly walked forward, glaring at Long Chen. Gui Yan, this isn't corrupt King Mountain. You have to listen to me here. The dwarf's expression sank. He had clearly been angered. Seeing this anger, Gui Yan hesitated and didn't continue forward. He had to restrain himself a bit in front of this dwarf. Seeing Gui Yan actually stop, Long Chen cursed inside. If Gui Yan refused to fight him, he would have no chance to escape the calamity. After bragging to the point that you shook the heavens, you still ran away, huh? If Leng Yueyan could cut you with her sword, then I can crush you like crushing a dog. What's the point of bragging so much? To say you could defeat me in just 3 moves, are you trying to make it obvious that you're just bragging? Just bragging won't bring you any glory. It's not that I want to look down on you, but I really do look down on you, sneered Long Chen. You're asking for it? Gui Yan roared, his aura completely erupting. He had just been about to charge forward when the dwarf caught hold of him. Looking at Long Chen, the dwarf sneered, Brat, when it comes to scheming, your skill is still lacking. Such a little trick is useless against me. Clearly, he had seen through Long Chen's intentions. He wasn't worried about Long Chen defeating Gui Yan, as that was impossible. But he didn't want to waste any more time. The longer things went on, the more likely something unexpected would occur. That would be troublesome. After all, this was the territory of the righteous path. Hearing this, Long Chen's expression changed. This was clearly a wily old fox who wouldn't allow the slightest careless thing. Child, don't be afraid. People die sooner or later. With all of us on the road to the Yellow Springs, we'll have plenty to say and laugh about. What's there to be unhappy about? Boss Bao patted Long Chen on the shoulder comfortingly. After all, the 3 of them were still young, while the bosses had been living for centuries. They had long since stopped feeling so much fear toward death. But if these bosses knew Bao Buping had memorized the heaven-splitting divine tablet's inheritance and message, they wouldn't be able to stay so calm. Damn it, I can't die yet. I have so many beauties and hot-blooded brothers waiting for me. Long Chen looked at the blood-colored dome in the sky. The terrifying pressure being emitted from the blood-moon-devouring sun formation told him that even if he was 100 times stronger, he wouldn't be able to break this formation. Long Chen sighed inside. He was unwilling, but this was an indisputable fact. He really was about to die here. Suddenly, the formation quivered intensely, and countless chains shot over at Long Chen's side like sinister serpents. Sorry, our time is precious. We need to leave quickly. The dwarf smiled cruelly at them. The sight of people struggling right before their deaths was his favorite scene. Long Chen took out the pot and prepared to give it to Boss Bao. Boss Bao was the strongest here, and giving him the pot gave them the greatest chance of getting out of this formation. But that hope was so remote that it was almost non-existent. That was because there wasn't just a grand formation trapping them. There was also that terrifying dwarf. He definitely wouldn't allow Boss Bao to break the formation. No matter what they did, there was no chance. Just as Long Chen was preparing to send a message to Boss Bao, a familiar voice rang out from the sky that caused Long Chen's heart to pound. Since your time is precious, there's no need to leave. My Shen Dao sect is large enough for its precious guests to stay behind. Long Chen felt like flowers were blooming in his heart. This voice belonged to the Shen Dao sect's Shen master, Li Tianxian. Hearing that voice, the dwarf's expression immediately changed. Boom! The huge barrier above them shattered, a large hole appearing on it. A 30,000-meter thick beam of light shot down. Completely by chance, the light went right through where those experts from the Pill Tower and ancient races were currently bound, and instantly blew them to dust. The light beam continued toward the dwarf. Its terrifying power caused the world to shake. It's the reincarnation mirror. The dwarf let out a startled cry. A small skeleton suddenly appeared in his hand. It was only the size of a fist and looked to be a human skull. There were blood-colored marks on the skull that emitted an evil air. The skull rapidly grew until it was 3,000 meters. On the skull's forehead, a blood-colored light condensed and shot out at the light beam. But when the two rays of energy collided, heaven and earth fiercely shook. The huge blood moon devouring sun formation was blown to pieces. The blood color that filled the world faded, returning the world to its original color. Long Chen and the others were blown far into the distance. Only once he managed to stabilize himself did Long Chen get a chance to see what was happening clearly. Up in the sky was an ancient mirror emitting boundless divine might. It covered the sky, and as it revolved, runes shook heaven and earth, charging through the beam of light to attack the skull. Long Chen recognized this ancient mirror to be one of the Xiantian Dao sect's divine items, the reincarnation mirror. In front of that sacred mirror was a person forming hand seals, his long hair billowing back. That person always had a faint smile as if everything was within his control. Good child, your ability to cause trouble grows greater and greater. Even I am almost unable to handle it. The Shen master smiled at Long Chen. His voice was full of praise. Boss, we've come. Following that, a sharp cry rang out, and a mass of figures flew out of the reincarnation mirror. The first person to charge out was Guoran. Following his cry, the rest of the Dragon Blood Legion also flew out. Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Wild, Yu Zifeng, Gu Yang, Song Mingyuan, Li Qi, familiar figures flew out one by one. Other than the Dragon Blood Legion's experts, there was also Hua Shiyu, Zhao Zian, Wang Zhen, and even the previous generation's experts, Mu Qingxian and Su Mo. These people were all the greatest elites of the Xiantian Dao sect. Each of them had fervent expressions in their eyes. That was because after their parting in the Eastern Sea, the stories of what Long Chen had done in the outside world had made their blood boil. In the Four Nations' ancient remnant, he had fought against experts from various powers, ruining the Pill Tower's sinister scheme. Then he had slaughtered his way out of Grand Xia City, completely looking down on the ancient race's experts like they were nothing. The Dragon Blood Legion was especially full of passion. Boss, we can finally fight alongside each other again. The Dragon Blood Legion let out a heaven-shaking roar. Their voices contained boundless battle intent. They were now a terrifying legion whose sharpness could pierce through the world. Hearing their roar, Long Chen felt his own blood igniting. Although there was no wind, his clothes began to flutter. A powerful energy was rising within him, forming a resonance with the Dragon Blood Legion's battle intent. This was a resonance between hot-blooded brothers, a connection that could only be formed through countless life and death battles together. When did the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples become this strong? Boss Bao couldn't help being surprised upon seeing these Dragon Blood warriors unleashing overflowing battle intent. Long Chen. From amongst the Dragon Blood Legion's experts, a beautiful figure suddenly passed everyone else and shot over. A burst of fragrance washed over Long Chen. It was Tang Wana. Tang Wana was currently red in the face, and although she did her best to suppress them, she couldn't stop her tears from streaming down. Even when she called out Long Chen's name, her voice had started to choke up. Long Chen held her tightly. He understood Tang Wana the best. This girl was extremely obstinate, and she also didn't like to lose face. For her true emotions to pour out here regardless of the situation, it was clear how worried she had been for him. It made him feel both warm and ashamed. Sorry, I made you worry. Long Chen gently wiped away her tears. Scoundrel, did you completely forget about us? Or have you been spreading your plague to women in the outside world? Tang Wana beat him on the chest a few times. How could that be possible? The heaven-splitting battle sect only has hot-blooded men. There were no women, said Long Chen awkwardly. This girl's jealous nature hadn't changed one bit. At this time, Meng Qi also arrived beside him. Looking at Long Chen, Her eyes were slightly red. She opened her mouth, but she was unable to say anything. The emotion in her eyes caused Long Chen to feel a burst of pain. He also didn't say anything. Releasing Tang Wan, he also gave Meng Qi a deep embrace. He truly owed them far too much. Brother Long. Wild's body hadn't changed, but now his face had some faint red lines on it that were a bit frightening. Seeing Long Chen again, Wild's eyes turned red from emotion. Good brother, I'm fine. Let's talk later. Long Chen patted Wild's arm. Long Chen had a special emotion for this simple-minded brother of his. Boss, I also want a hug. Guoran suddenly spread his arms just like Tang Waner had and rushed forward. Scram Brett. What is there to hug about between brothers? Said Long Chen. Right now, the situation was still too tense. Li Tianxian was facing the dwarf from the corrupt path, and both of them were using divine items. Long Chen only had time to nod toward the others. Now wasn't the time to catch up. A merciless and bloody battle was about to happen. Long Chen gave a simple introduction for Bao Buping and Chang Hao before they all silently stared up at the sky. Li Tianxuan's sudden arrival gave them a sense of safety. He had broken the corrupt path's blood moon devouring sun formation and forced the corrupt experts back. With the reincarnation mirror behind him, his eyes were completely calm, as if everything was under his control. The corrupt experts were also shocked. Standing behind the dwarf, they made their preparations for a huge battle. Right now, in terms of numbers, they still had an absolute advantage. Although the Xiantian Dao sect had moved out in full force, with Lu Tsang, the tower department head, and the various hall master-level experts and elders present, their power was still much weaker than the corrupt path. Both sides had pulled back and gathered, preparing for a fight. Li Tianxian, you really are brazen. You were actually willing to sacrifice a portion of your karmic luck to increase the power of the reincarnation mirror. Aren't you worried about the decline of your Xiantian Dao sect? Asked the dwarf, his expression dark. Li Tianxuan's arrival completely ruined all his plans. Long Chen's heart shook. No wonder he felt that the reincarnation mirror looked even stronger than in that last battle over the Eastern Sea. I, Li Tianxian, have always been quite brazen. Back over the Eastern Sea, I only used 10% of the reincarnation mirror's power so the other 90% could continue to maintain our karmic luck. But this time, I was a bit worried and felt like adding an extra 20%. With 2 divine items, using a portion of its power won't rattle the Xiantian Dao sect's foundation, so you don't need to worry about it. Furthermore, if I didn't use 30% of the reincarnation mirror's power, how else would I be able to block your corrupt god skull? Li Tianxian smiled faintly. This skull the dwarf had summoned was the corrupt path's famed divine item, the corrupt god skull. It was rumored that the corrupt god skull was the skull of the 7th generation's corrupt god. It was one of the corrupt path's supreme treasures and contained the divine abilities of the 7th generation's corrupt god. But this skull was the same as the reincarnation mirror and normally used to maintain karmic luck. They wouldn't easily use it. Maintaining karmic luck. That sounded mysterious and vague, but all sects with long inheritances had to have a powerful divine item maintaining it. If the sect was a tree, then the roots were a sect's karmic luck. The greater the karmic luck, the more life energy the tree had. The tree's leaves could fall, but as long as the tree roots were still present, they could grow again. A sect's rise and fall was like a tree going through the seasons. As long as its karmic luck remained, it would forever exist. The longer the history of a sect, the more karmic luck they had as a foundation, and the more they needed a divine item to maintain it. They couldn't easily use those divine items, because doing so would harm the tree's roots and would be dangerous to their futures. For example, the Heaven-Splitting Battle sect currently only had a single divine item maintaining their karmic luck. Furthermore, that divine item was connected to their Heaven-Earth divine pool. If they used it, the Heaven-Earth divine pool would be ruined, and it would signify that the Heaven-Splitting Battle sect's karmic luck had run out. Although the Heaven-Splitting Battle sect looked like it had already declined and was half dead, as long as they had a divine item maintaining their karmic luck, anything was possible. It was like a tree that had collapsed, but still had a bit of life in its roots. There was always a chance that spring would come again, and the withered tree would once more thrum with vitality. As for the corrupt god skull that the corrupt path had brought, it was prepared just in case they encountered a divine item from the righteous path. The dwarf had felt like just the blood moon devouring sun formation would be enough to handle this. He hadn't expected Li Tianxian to arrive. But if they hadn't prepared the corrupt god skull just in case, they would have been completely annihilated here. That made the dwarf feel very irritated. He was unable to figure out how Li Tianxian had managed to scheme everything seemingly so perfectly as if everything was in his control. In order to be sure of their success today, they had also increased the power of the corrupt god skull to the point that it would be able to suppress the power of the reincarnation mirror, which had appeared over the Eastern Sea. But as if matching them, Li Tianxian had also increased the power of the reincarnation mirror. It was like he had known what they would do and was intentionally matching them. That made the dwarf want to cough up blood. "How did you know our movements? And so clearly at that?" asked the dwarf. Until he knew the answer to this, there would be an uncomfortable knot in his heart. Did you really think your plan was seamless? Did you really think Xian Jizi's heaven-peering arts were omniscient? Xian Jizi might be able to calculate fate, but he can't calculate people's hearts. If he continues like this, he'll sooner or later end up calculating himself to death. Li Tianxian shook his head. "What do you mean?" demanded the dwarf gloomily. "It's very simple. Xian Jizi wishes to kill Long Chen to hide all the despicable things he has done over the years. According to my investigation, Hua Shiyu is just one of his victims. I've already found over 100 geniuses that have fallen victim to Xian Jizi. But even I don't know the true number of geniuses he has harmed. If he really had the ability to see through the heavens and understood the cycle of karma, if he could truly respect the will of the world, he wouldn't do such a thing that's against the heavens. Since he commits such atrocities, it means he's nothing more than a faker. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been expelled from Heavenly Fate Island and sent to be a swindler in the Grand Han ancient nation. Let me put it a bit more simply. He is just a conman. Although he has some ability, he doesn't use his head. Ever since the battle over the Eastern Sea, I knew that he definitely wouldn't let this go. I also knew that your corrupt path would get revenge after suffering such a loss. At that time, I had already used the reincarnation mirror to completely block the Xian Dao sect's fate from being read so that Xian Jizi wouldn't be able to see anything about us. So he had no choice but to calculate things based on the Grand Xia's fate to find Long Chen's general position. And he didn't succeed in the Grand Xia. That is where the Wine God Palace is, and the Wine God Palace has a god's inheritance. There's no way he can calculate everything about the Wine God Palace, so he once more failed. As for when Long Chen left the Grand Xia and went to the heaven-splitting battle sect, let alone Xian Jizi, even I, without the slightest bit of ability in seeing through fate, could calculate that Long Chen's next step would definitely be Devil Spirit Mountain, as many people know that the heaven-splitting battle sect's divine item was lost in Devil Spirit Mountain. Now you should understand, right? Your so-called secret movements and Xian Jizi's brilliant deductions are nothing more than a huge joke. Li Tianxuan's words resounded through the air, causing the dwarf's expression to grow more and more unsightly. Li Tianxuan's words hung in the air. Everyone else was completely silent. Li Tianxian continued, "When it comes to calculating fate, I don't have any skill. But when it comes to calculating people's hearts, I leave Xian Jizi in the dust. As soon as that battle over the Eastern Sea was over, I had already predicted that such a day would come and was just waiting. I didn't need to pay attention to you, nor did I have to pay attention to Xian Jizi. All I had to do was keep an eye on Long Chen. That was enough. As soon as Long Chen entered Devil Spirit Mountain, I began making my preparations. I knew you would definitely come." Even the bosses who looked down on intelligence couldn't help but praise Li Tianxian inside. When it came to brains, there was probably no one else who could outplay Li Tianxian. The way Li Tianxian put it made it seem so simple. In front of Li Tianxian, Xian Jizi and the Corrupt Path's plot seemed laughably childish. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind it. In the end, everything had gone according to Li Tianxuan's calculations. Then those people from the ancient races and the pill tower, you did that intentionally? Asked the dwarf. No, of course not. Although I had arranged things in advance, when I came, I was disturbed by some special matters and didn't know what was happening here. Based on your tone, you mean that experts from the ancient races and the pill tower are here? How come I don't see them? Li Tianxian simply acted stupid. In truth, Li Tianxian had slain those experts intentionally. As for why he acted like he didn't know, it was just a pretext to avoid being found guilty. As long as he refused to admit it, who would be able to do anything to him? Even if the ancient races and the pill tower decided to come and find him to settle this debt, he could simply say that it had been impossible for him to tell what had been happening inside the formation. To save Long Chen and the heaven-splitting battle sex experts, he could only barge into the formation like that. This time, Li Tianxian was truly infuriated. The ancient races and the pill tower had plotted to kill Long Chen repeatedly without caring about the Shen-Tian-Dao sect. They had pushed Li Tianxian to his limit. When Long Chen had just entered the heaven-splitting battle sect, the ancient races experts had tried to force the heaven-splitting battle sect to hand over Long Chen. However, they hadn't even dared to let out a fart after the heaven-splitting battle sect had slain 3 of their life star experts. That made Li Tianxian see that he couldn't continue enduring. The heaven-splitting battle sect had declined just like them, but no one dared to bully them. It made the Shen-Tian-Dao sect seem too weak in comparison. So this time, Li Tianxian had killed Dan Sheng and the ancient races experts as a display of power. Did the pill tower think they could bully everyone? Did the ancient races think they could dominate the lands? Then they could come. In any case, the Shen-Tian-Dao sect had also declined to their breaking point just like the heaven-splitting battle sect. Why not go all out? Li Tianxian had completely bared his fangs to prove to everyone that the Shen-Tian-Dao sect was still the old Shen-Tian-Dao sect, one of the 3 great sections. The 3 great sects of the heavens from back then had long since declined. The heaven-splitting battle sect, the Shen-Tian-Dao sect, the heaven-suppressing magic sect, not one of them was an exception. The heaven-splitting battle sect was already in imminent danger, but they still stuck out their chests boldly, their spines never bending. On the other hand, successive generations of Shen masters had been very conservative. As a result, after so many years, they had been suppressed and suffered in silence. As for the heaven-suppressing magic sect, they had a good relationship with Pill Valley and were good at sucking up. Although they looked like they were flourishing, their inner workings were very complicated. They had long since lost their original power. Now the heaven-suppressing magic sect was just a dog of the pill tower. They had long since been secretly controlled by them. Regretfully for both sides, they had paid a huge price this time. Li Tianxian had even seen Ma Xingkong being killed by the corrupt path. In truth, in the pill tower's eyes, the heaven-suppressing magic sect was truly just a dog. Normally if they gave a dog a few treats, the dog would help bite others for them. When the pill tower wanted to speak, the dog could bark a bit as well. Back in the day, just how glorious had the 3 heavenly sects been. But now they were a thing of the past. The heaven-suppressing magic sect had fallen to the point that they needed to wag their tails and beg for the pity of others. It was a sorrowful thing. As for the Shen-Tian-Dao sect, their situation was like a frog being slowly boiled. Although it didn't look like there was any danger in the short term, by the time that danger arrived, everything would be too late. Li Tianxian was a smart man, and he had made his determination to revitalize the Shen-Tian-Dao sect. He acted boldly and decisively. If you were prepared, why didn't you gather the Martial Heaven Alliance and other righteous powers? Wouldn't that give you more assurance? Probed the dwarf. He was completely rattled by Li Tianxian. He couldn't make heads or tails of Li Tianxuan's methods. Although he was a wily old fox, Li Tianxian was like an experienced hunter. No, luxurious meat should be consumed by oneself. Why split it with others? We don't have that many people, so we probably won't be able to eat it all. But I feel like eating a portion should be no problem. Li Tianxian smiled. You're so confident? Sneered the dwarf. Hearing that Li Tianxian hadn't gathered other righteous powers made him much more at ease. The righteous path was never united enough. They schemed against each other all the time, and if they couldn't obtain something, they wouldn't let others obtain it either. If Li Tianxian had truly arranged for an army of righteous experts to appear here, the dwarf would immediately activate the corrupt god skull to bring all his people away. But if the only people to come were the ones here, he was unafraid. And through the corrupt god skull's power, he had subtly probed the area and didn't see any signs of a formation or hidden auras. That made him calm down. In the corrupt path's eyes, the righteous path's people were incomparably greedy and selfish. What Li Tianxian had just said perfectly matched the righteous path's character. You're looking down on my corrupt path. This time, I brought all the elites of Blood Mass Gate. Even with your heaven-splitting battle sect and Shen Dao sect working together, it's not easy to say whether or not you'll be able to block our sharp blades. The dwarf formed hand seals, and countless blood-colored runes blazed like the sun on the corrupt god skull. The beam of light coming from its forehead increased in intensity. It was now several times stronger than before. Following his order, the Life Star experts flew out at the Shen Dao sect's side. The others also followed. There's no need to waste the effort. My mission is just to keep an eye on you. I won't interfere in their battle, said Li Tianxian indifferently. The reason the dwarf was activating the corrupt god skull at full power was to make Li Tianxian have to focus on him. Otherwise, the slightest negligence might allow Li Tianxian to send down some of the power of his divine item below and exterminate his corrupt path's experts. In truth, he had the same thoughts. He had great confidence in the experts he had brought along. Whether it was in terms of numbers or quality, they far surpassed their side. Then that's best. Let's see just who is stronger. The dwarf smiled coldly. But he placed his complete attention on Li Tianxian, afraid of him pulling some trick. He had no choice but to be as careful as possible when it came to Li Tianxian. After stifling so much anger, I can finally vent against some corrupt bastards. But don't worry, these heads will count toward your Shen Dao sect. Boss Bao shouted and shot forward at one of the incoming Life Star experts. Following Boss Bao, Lu Song, as well as the dark-faced, never-smiling tower department head also flew out at the Life Star experts. Then the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth boss flew out. Only the seventh boss hesitated. There are too many soul transformation experts on their side. Will you be all right? Don't worry about us, we can handle it. On the other hand, for the 9 of you to face 18 Life Star experts is troublesome, said Long Chen worriedly. As long as you're fine, there definitely won't be any problem on our side. We're still not so old that you can look down on us. The seventh boss laughed confidently. No longer hesitating, he charged out at the Life Star experts. This was different from the previous battle. This was the true time to fight with their lives on the line. The 7 bosses immediately started using their fiercest moves, unleashing dangerous, suicidal moves. The 7 bosses fought with Lu Song and the tower department head against the Life Star experts. Although their battle was incredibly shocking, they all had misgivings about their people and began to slowly fly away, leaving the main battlefield to the others. One reason was because they were worried about their disciples being killed by the shockwaves, but another reason was because they were afraid of touching the Sovereign Blood Seal. The Sovereign Blood Seal would annihilate anyone who attacked it, so none of them dared to fight near it. The Life Star experts distanced themselves from the main battlefield. By that time, the soul transformation experts had arrived. Over 500 soul transformation experts were charging over like bloodthirsty devils, their eyes shining with a vicious light. The new Elder Hall Master led the Shen Dao sect's soul transformation experts forward. This time, the Shen Dao sect had truly moved out in full force. They had over 80 soul transformation experts. They had even called out their experts that had been in seclusion for decades or even centuries. Although the difference in number was far too vast, they all knew that in this righteous and corrupt battle, the time had come for them to repay the sect that had raised them for so many years. None of them retreated, but they had only just been about to charge forward when Long Chen stopped them. Soul transformation experts don't need to fight alone. Let's have a full chaotic battle. If they fought according to the style of soldiers fight soldiers, generals fight generals, then the soul transformation realm would be the Xiantian Dao Sect's fatal weakness. The number difference between them was too great. Although Long Chen was just a disciple, all these soul transformation experts listened to him. Within the Xiantian Dao sect, Long Chen's prestige was only second to the Xian master. Brothers, after being apart for so long, you should all have reached the peak of foundation forging. Let's once more fight alongside each other against these demons from the corrupt path. There's no need to hide your power this time. Let loose and let me see your true power. Today, we're going to carry out a slaughter. Long Chen raised his head and roared. That roar shook the 9 heavens. Long Chen's roar ignited all the hot blood of the dragon blood warriors. 13,000 warriors let out a simultaneous roar. Slaughter them! The furious roar of 10,000 experts containing boundless battle intent resounded throughout the world. Don't worry, Guoran will get us off to a good start. Guoran appeared in the air, a huge crossbow in front of him. Seeing it, Long Chen's pupils narrowed. An ancestral item. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.